It's a time of rest, too, and a time to reflect on the darkness, how it lets the light shine. Hi, and welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
And welcome back. We are on season 4 of A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas.
Woo!
Welcome back. Oh my god, I feel like it's been so long.
It has. We took a longer break between this season and the last.
Because we're moving out to LA, which we're here, by the way, in person together. So if the audio is a little bit different than normal, that's what happens. Yeah, so we will be deep diving into the first 6 chapters of this book. We are so excited. I know I kind of went into it a little bit last time at the end of last season, but this book is important. Do not skip it.
It is a real book. It's shorter, but it is not a half book. It is important.
Yes, so you still need to read it, and it's also a really good feel-good book between this and what's to come. So without further ado, why don't we just jump right into it, shall we?
Let's get it.
Chapter 1. Also, I have the original copy, and it's so beautiful because it's Feyre in her starfall gown, which is just, I mean, don't we all have that dress that we just pull out that we know we're just going to use? Okay, no, you just...
I need to find that dress. I need to find a guy who will give me that dress.
Or a girl. Who knows?
Can I get that dress, please?
But yes, no, I have a dress that's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to use this for this.
That's your trump card.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
just pull that out.
Yes, so welcome back to Valaris, folks. So this book, again, I'm going to remind the audience, is a little bit different than the other books because now we are transitioning out of Feyre and Rhysand's POVs. I mean, we still have them in this book, but they're going to be less so. So we're going to, this few chapters that we're doing, we're getting Cassian and Morrigan's POV. So I'm really excited to get into
2
those.
new characters.
It's like new characters, but it kind of makes sense.
You ever wonder what's going on inside someone's mind?
I know. I want to think about what's Cassian's mind. Wait, what did I just say?
I think I know what's happening in your mind.
I want to know what is in Cassian's brain, folks, all the time.
And I think this one chapter gives us a pretty good idea.
Oh, for sure. Bloodshed. So we begin with Feyre's POV in the townhouse eating breakfast, regaling us of the events of the 3 previous books. Because, you know, when you're an author, there's so much time in between books. So there's a level of, so we kind of do have to remind the audience for, you know, people who are not crazy like us and reread it constantly, you need to know a few things. I like how it starts out with thinking, because this whole book is about winter, right? And I like how it starts out that way. Because it's like, remember we started the first book with her dreading winter and what's to come with it.
And now we're back.
And now we're back to winter, but it's also beautiful this time.
And she's all cozy and...
Oh, yeah. So it's like, I like to think about like where, it's such a journey moment. It's like thinking about where you started and then where you ended. So I really like that. Feyre also tells us about how, you know, there's still tension. Like, it's like, yeah, we have peace, but Rhys has also been trying to keep an eye on the new and temporary alliances to make sure no possibility of war strikes again.
Right now that the wall is down.
Yeah, because who wants war now? Come on, we went through 3 books of that shit. Like,
yeah,
we're good. But it's also, you know, there's more books to come, so I also know that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it seems like war's always around the corner anyway.
Yeah, for sure. It's always temporary peace, right?
Which is unfortunate.
I also do love the little subtleties of when she's like, I'm the High Lady of the Night Court, but I also like to play in winter because I have all the High Lord's power. It's like...
Yeah, I highlighted that part and it was just, yeah, she's High Lady, but like she's also like, oh, but like winter wants to play now.
It's also like reminder to all of us, yes, Feyre, you are the most powerful.
You are the most powerful of them all.
Yes, we understand.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the most powerful of them all?
Feyre and Rhysand.
Yeah.
But I also like how, you know, it's very domestic, so I could understand why, like, sometimes it's not interesting to a lot of people, but I think this stuff is good because we get to see Nuala and Caradwyn again. And they're more talkative.
Yeah.
And I really want to know what they have to say.
I know. I do appreciate the domestic nature of it because it's like, while it's amazing to see super hot warrior guys like fighting and, you know, being all powerful and badass and like, oh, okay, in the bed, that's fun too. But then also also being able to see what they're like, you know, behind the scenes, basically.
Yeah, because not everything is going to be, maybe that's like the realism of a good fantasy for me. It's where like, it's not always going to be so interesting. Like there are interesting moments in the boring.
Right. But like you got to have that balance of like, oh yeah, like thinking about when they just want to hang out or thinking about the good times when they're just walking through Belarus or something like that. And I think we brought that up back in the second season. Of just like, we liked that moment of, you know, Rhys not being High Lord, just being Rhys.
It's very Sarah giving us one of those for, I think it's more for like diehard fans where it's just like, yes, we want to see these moments. We've been dying to see these. Like, I really want us to be in Belarus again. So just want to go with that right off bat.
Yeah.
So basically Feyre is discussing like what her High Lady things are going to be for this winter solstice and aka her birthday. And I didn't know when I was reading this the first time that it has been a year. It has been a year since Rhys called in the bargain, saved her from that god-awful wedding.
Right. It's like, okay, yeah, a month, and then a month passed, and then all of the war.
And then, like, the span of time between Act of War and this book.
Which was, what, a couple months, I think it said? Oh, yeah, so it's been, like, I think maybe they said 5 months since the war ended?
Yeah, or like 6.
Yeah,
or I think it was more.
It was still summery. They were there, and now it's winter, so probably around 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, so, like...
Yeah, winter solstice, typically December 21st.
Yeah, so I appreciated that, but I also liked how there was a level of, oh my god, it's been a year in the span of book time. I'm like, oh my god, yes, remember when Rhys saved her from that god-awful wedding?
And as Feyre put it, like, if you were a minute later.
Wouldn't have even happened. Yeah, I think it's, maybe this, and I'm gonna say this probably throughout this book, I think what I appreciate also about Sarah is that, again, in these moments of where it's just, you know, very much a novella-esque type book, she still adds in the triggers that Feyre has of, like, seeing Rhys die, about how she felt when the mating bond was gone, like, how she felt about her sisters seeing her, and then about Cassian, Azriel, and everybody getting hurt. I like how even throughout this first 6 chapters, like there are times where like she'll just get blindsided with a level of, oh my god, like that happened, okay, it's fine, okay,
the walls aren't actually closing in on me.
Yeah, so I like how she keeps in the triggers because that's very much a favorite thing.
And I do appreciate how, like, she says she remembers how Rhys looked when he was dead. And it's like, okay, now I understand how, you know, when Rhys gets the distant look in his eye, like, I understand that as well. Because it's like something that I had to keep reminding myself of. Oh, yeah, Rhys dying was traumatizing for us as readers. But wait, Feyre died in front of Rhys in the very first book.
I guess in my mind, it wasn't as bad as her because they were like mated and love and already there. Like, I'm not saying that his wasn't as bad.
Right. But I think it's something that I still need to remember because it's like, okay, technically, but Rhys did like have an inkling of what it was. And he had been seeing Feyre in his mind for 2 years prior to that. True. So like, it wasn't the same situation for Feyre, obviously. And it wasn't exactly the same for Rhys because you're right, weren't officially mated. Then it hadn't snapped. They hadn't figured it out, whatever. But there was still that level of Rhys desperately cared for Feyre. And then saw her die by his worst enemy that he'd been trapped with for 50 years.
And then Tamlin having to hold her and then him just being like...
And kiss her and then...
Oh, we hate it. So going off of that, I also like how, again, Feyre is relatable as a character because it's like when she talks about these moments of like getting overwhelmed, I have this especially this week where like if I get overwhelmed, I have to throw myself into work because sometimes the quiet I hate just as much as like not doing anything. Because if I'm just stuck in a place not doing anything, I'm just going to get stuck in my thoughts. And that's never good.
Right.
So I very much felt related to that. I also like throughout this first chapter, whenever she talks about stuff like that, she's just like, okay, you know, all these people dying about the Illyrian Mountains, the human city, the humans. Let's start with the winter solstice, shall we? I feel like that's encompassing why this book exists. Is like, okay, before all the new shit is going to happen, here's this nice Christmas book, which you get to have where there's actually no really big conflict and it's all just set up.
A moment for us as readers to also take a break.
Right.
A breather.
So that nobody's dying and nobody's like having any dramatic experiences. It's an ACOTAR book. There's going to be some traumatic experience.
It's also just Sarah writing.
True. So I think it's Nuala, because Caradwin's like somewhere else at the time.
Caradwin has not been spotted yet.
No. Nuala's the one kind of telling her about what's going to happen for Solstice, because she doesn't know. Like in every court, it's different, right?
Can I just say, I love how Nuala is just like focusing on her meat pie, while at the same time she's just like casually, offhandedly of like, oh yeah, I mean, there is a ceremony, but we don't go to it.
We don't go to it. Unfortunately, that's like so many people back when I was in Indiana, where it's just like, yeah, we're supposed to go to church, but like...
And isn't she like a shadow wraith?
Yeah.
So it's like, she's like, yeah, people like just choose to sit in darkness for the whole night.
She's like, we do that anyway.
Or it's like, she's just like, but that doesn't sound like much fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, as the shadow wraith, you don't think that'd be fun.
Right. It's like, she already does that, like, in the night, probably. So, like, they probably sleep in darkness, So, unlike the winter solstice in spring, because remember, we didn't really get the winter solstice in spring. We kind of got it, like, offhandedly.
We got Ianthe.
Well, that too. But, like, it was very much a party, versus the night court seems to be more intimate and gift-giving. And it's like, of course, under the stars. So that's going to be way better than spring automatically.
Mm-hmm. It's like a winter festival that is more focused on the prayers and thanking the light or whatever versus at an actual Christmas time.
It seems like more Christmassy in terms of presents.
Yeah.
And more intimate than like a big gathering.
Family and tradition.
I do really appreciate, though, what Nuala says. She says it's a time to reflect on the darkness and how it lets the light shine, which I think is a really big also theme of this book too, of Feyre specifically, her aftermath of this story, of just her reflecting on all the bad times she had and like trying to move forward. So it's like Nuala kind of giving us a subtle foreshadow.
Roll credits.
For sure. And so again, in her remembrance, when she's remembering all these things about what she's going to wear and stuff, she thinks about the jewels, and that triggers the Weaver again. And I'm like...
It's like, throughout this whole thing, even through this chapter alone, she's just like, smile, oh, that's a good... Oh.
Yeah, no, it's very much like that. It's like, oh yeah, remember when I got the ring from the Weaver? Oh, she's dead.
Specifically mutilated by hounds.
Remember the bone carver? Yeah, he's gone too.
Oh, remember? Oh, wait, no.
He's gone too. My dad's neck is snapped. Like, but happy Christmas. Like, winter solstice.
Like, oh yeah, Nesta's oh wait, but now I'm remembering Nesta. Cat's almost dying.
So then, like, it's funny, then she goes back up to her room, and she's, like, talking about how, Reese's in her shared room is so, it's like, because it's Reese, like, it's a big bedroom, but there's, like, papers all over the desk, there's, like, weapons all around, there's clothes, books, and I'm like, God, why is this, like, my room?
It's a lived-in room for sure. Two very busy, high people.
I just love the subtleness of, when did that mace get there? Cassian.
Probably has something to do with Cassian. And why do I picture it's like a moment where Cassian has a mace and he's like, hey, Reese, look at this. And Reese is like, I'm going to take this away from this guy.
Oh my God. Where did he get that? I mean, I know where he got it, but also...
And the fact that it just appeared without Feyre even noticing.
It's like, what? Why do we need all these weapons here? So... I love the subtle transitions, because I don't know why Feyre and Rhysand's transitions to me are such like a me thing. But she's thinking about the weapons, and then she's thinking about who's in the house, and she's like, oh yeah, Elaine's still living with us down the way. Oh, by the way, Elaine. So it's like, Elaine is still living in the townhouse. Nesta, which we find out later in these chapters where she actually is, but it's very, oh my God, when I tell you, when I read this book the first time, I was so fucking curious, because they make Nesta seem like this allured person. Like, he's like, oh, Nesta, blah, 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 is across the river in a bad neighborhood, and that's all we get. And it's like, what the fuck happened between the end of Akawar and now to where she's just outed herself in this random part of town? What? Like,
obviously I was thinking about, related to Papa Archeron's death. My prediction of it was, oh yeah, he said I love you, and she felt guilty, and now she's secluding herself because she feels guilty.
I guess when I first read this, I thought Nesta was so exhausting, because it's like, I think I said this in one of the books. I think I said it in one of the mini episodes if you go all the way back. But it's like, Nesta throughout each book changed. Like, I feel like it had moments of good, and it's like made me hopeful for her at the end of Act War. And then this just like,
Right.
I was like so disappointed because I was like, oh my god, her and Cassian are going to be together. They kiss at the end and then find out that they haven't spoken to each other this whole time, this whole 5-month time. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And I know we're gonna get there, but Cassian is just like, nope, can't think about that.
But no, I could. So I was like, I was looking forward to it being very like peaceful, and then I was, but it's Nesta, and she kind of felt weird at the end of Act War. But I wasn't expecting it, so it intrigued me a lot. So that's all we get of her for now. And then Lucian got an apartment down the river as well, in a better part of town. But like
the way that it happened is so like suggestive in a bad way and sad.
I know, because he's like, I don't want to stay up in the House of Wind because it's too far away from it, which is true.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to feel a burden at the townhouse.
So he's like, I'll just get my own apartment, which he barely stays in apparently.
But like just the fact of like they didn't even ask questions, but he like came up to them after returning from the spring court with a black eye and a busted lip, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to stay at the House of Wind or townhouse. Do you have any suggestions for a place for me to stay here?
Oh my god.
And it's like, okay, so Tamlin kicked him out, beat his ass a little bit. Like that's probably what happened.
God, poor Lucian.
4th book and he's still getting treated like shit.
I feel so bad for him. Oh my god. Please, give this man a break. I love how it's also like, even to like put in the knife more. He hasn't even mentioned his like proximity with Elaine or, you know, whether or not she cared. And it's like, okay, he's just doing his own thing, which just let him do his own thing. So it's like, of course, the Elaine Lucian trope is still open-ended, which of course we have our thoughts about. But I also like how Feyre keeps talking about how the townhouse is too small for everyone. I like the townhouse, don't get me wrong. But it is very small when everyone is there, especially during Act War in those moments where everyone was there, including Nesta and Lucian. So there was a level of, yeah, I kind of get that. Like, I know it's your home, but also like...
But also your family is growing.
Yeah.
So you can't really fit everyone. It's like large families trying to fit into a small home.
Oh, for sure.
Legit for the holidays.
Right. And so, like, you know, as she's, you know, looking amongst her papers and whatever, she's monologuing about how she's actually being a great high lady. Not gonna lie. Like, she's talking about how she's going through the coffers, even though they run so deep, she still wants to budget. And it's like, you see how much she loves the territory as much as her mate.
I think the whole idea of her, like, even though the coffers are so deep, her budgeting still holds on to the roots from the first book of, like, being aware of how much you're spending, because she didn't have that much money back in the human world.
I think I write it later in my notes somewhere, like, you know, when you kind of grew up with not, like, a lot of money, there's a level of, you know, that's always going to stick with you no matter how much money you eventually get. It's going to be like, yeah, you know what, I can't actually buy that, you know, because that's going over budget. And it's like, dude, you have like $1 billion in the bank. It's like, yeah, but still, I don't want.
Yeah, I mean, that's legit like BTS. Like the broke billionaires, they're like, ooh, free stuff, cool.
It's like, dude, you guys are like multi-billionaires. Like, you don't have to worry about money.
But they're still so conscious of it.
Yeah.
And then they go on and like donate $1 million to each charity.
I know, such good voice. But it's nice to see that she's like helping out the community with like helping like build up the community again and like helping out those in need, because again, you know, the war happened and Valaris got attacked twice and there's a level of like they need to rebuild, and it mirrors Akamath when she went to go try to help like the villages out in Spring Court and they were like, no, you know,
your debt is paid.
Your debt, like they made it seem so like transactional versus here they're just like the denizens of Valaris are very much like, babe, go home, it's the holidays, like we got a bunch of people working.
I mean,
like,
and also they let her help a lot. She volunteered at so many different charities and help centers and stuff, and she was like insisting, she's like, no, there's still more coats to hand out and food and whatever, and they're like, girl, we have plenty of help, you've inspired others to help, you deserve a week with your family, so get out of here, go spend some time on yourself.
right,
rather than just like, oh yeah, the debt is paid and we couldn't possibly ever accept your help.
And then when also like, because even in that moment Lucian made it seem like it was because they were in those like slave camps under the mountain, and I was like, I feel like it's more than just that.
Yeah,
like it's because Tamlin is so scary that, you know, they're uppers, right? The fact that they would be helping at all is like, no, like, you know, we work for you. Versus like here it's very much like a nice nice.
Everyone helps everyone.
Yeah,
like, there are
no.
ranks in terms of when it comes to, like, war,
Mhm.
but not ranks in, I'm gonna hold this over you, that I'm High Lady.
Right. And so, of course, that happened. So apparently she heard back from Reese telepathically again.
Finally.
You do not know how much this made my heart happy listening to this again. Apparently Reese is at Devlin's camp today with Cassian getting caught into a fight with him, which is always great. That means something's bad.
Yeah, especially if Reese hasn't been able to respond for so long because Cassian has been ranting.
Yeah, because he hasn't, like, the Illyrian camps are not that far. Like,
No.
They've definitely talked further.
And didn't, like, Feyre legit say at the beginning of, oh yeah, he's probably not even in the Night Court.
Yeah, because it felt so voidy, she said. It felt like such a void.
It's like, well, he's in the Night Court, not even too far away.
I love how I didn't pick this up, but I picked it up this reread.
Mhm.
The subtle subtext of, like, when she's trying to play with him because, you know, when we get from Reese's perspective in the next chapter that there's some hella sexual tension going on between them, is that, like, she's like, poor Illyrian baby. And then he, like, his magic is trying to curl around her, and it's almost like he hears something on his end, and he pulls away. Like, he wants to engage, but then pulls away, and he's like, I gotta go deal with this.
He's like, I don't want to go deal with this, but I gotta do my High Lord duties.
It's like, Cassian is getting into it. I'll check in with you later. And it's like, okay. I mean, I'm here in bed, and he's just like, God damn it.
Damn it, Shreya, I don't have time for you.
No, at the moment, no.
Which clearly is driving him insane.
Oh, God.
Into a foolish little boy again.
Which is so funny because then I'm just like, it's thinking in my mind, I'm like, let's go see how that's doing. And then chapter 2, Reese POV. And it's like, oh, okay, we're here. So.
And Cassian is indeed getting into it with Devlin.
Also, I love Reese's POV, honestly. I really do.
We've only gotten 2 chapters ever in his point of view.
And I really love it. He's so funny. In his, I mean, Feyre is amazing as well, but, like, recent.
I also just love hearing, like, in any story, really, I love hearing how a love interest actually thinks about the main character. So, like, any kind of thing like that super makes me happy. And then it's Reese.
Yeah, and then you hear it, and then it's like, oh, so cute.
It's not just the sensual, playful male that we sometimes, like, get through Feyre's point of view. Like, he actually has very deep, horny thoughts.
He's like, my love of my life. I want to spend a week in bed. It's like, okay.
Uninterrupted.
Okay. So Reese apparently went down to the steps to help Cassian with the Windhaven camp. So that's the one that Devlin's in charge of again. And
where the boys grew up.
Yes. And I love how, like, whilst he's kind of giving that intro, he's also like, I want to show my mate how the city of Starlight glistens under the freshly fallen snow. And I'm like, okay, babe, I'll go with you.
Although it was still kind of sweet of that, because he's just like, I was wondering if the snow had piled up yet, and I was going to ask her, but then this is distracting me. But maybe
like,
she'll go for a walk with me in the snow.
It's also, like, Reese is giving us a chance as well to, like, let's remind the audience about how shitty the Illyrians are.
How backwards they are.
So it's like basically what Cassian is getting into is that the male warriors are on patrol or they're training while the, I want to say quote unquote lower males, like the ones who can't fight as well, are kind of like merchants and blacksmiths.
The ones that didn't pass the rite.
Yes.
Pretty much.
And then the females do all the drudgery work and child rearing. And it's like.
And decorating and cooking and cleaning. And
I guess it's all technically under drudgery.
I guess so.
Even though to us that wouldn't be it.
Yeah. Although decorating is holiday.
Yeah.
Is seasonal.
So it's like they culturally do not see that as wrong.
Backwards.
But it's like that has been that way as long as the Bat Boys have been alive, and it's been there forever.
And Cassian, if we remember from, what was it, last book or the second book?
Could have been from either of them.
Yeah. At some point, we got the snippet that Cassian has been trying for centuries. Decades. He's been trying for decades to get the females to train.
And so basically what the fight is over is Cassian is fighting Devlin because the girls aren't being allowed to train whilst it's solstice time. He's like, I want them to train for 2 hours a day and then they can help. And so Reese is there to aid, which I will say, I'm not gonna like give Devlin the benefit of the doubt, but I actually do think Devlin's an interesting character. Because whilst his views on females are stupid, he still lets them train. Like,
that's true.
At moments. Okay, this is like, I mean, obviously this is
begrudgingly lets them train, but he does still let them train.
But then he also, I guess he's more quote unquote, more forward thinking because every bastard under his purview
Mm-hmm.
gets the same chance as any full-blooded Illyrian, which is not the same for other places.
Right. And like we've gotten in the previous books as well, like Rhys, Cass mentioning it, like Devlin is one of the more reasonable camp lords. So it's like, okay, it makes sense. And he technically did take in Cass and Az when he could have left them, though. I mean, he basically did in Illyrian standards, but...
And I guess that's what makes him interesting as well, because, like, he was their superior for so long, and now, like, the script is getting flipped.
I did appreciate how Rhys was just like, yeah, it took a lot from me to not turn into that quivering, trembling little boy in front of Devlin.
It's like, stand your ground, babe.
It's like, yeah, 500 years later, and it's still a little wild to me to think of just, okay, well, Devlin, like, trained these boys, technically, and now that's High Lord and Spy Master in general.
I know it's not the same, but it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have felt this, but what is your teacher? Like, I'll always call my second grade teacher Mrs. Patton.
Right.
I won't ever call her by her first name, even though, dude, I'm 24, about to be 25.
It was a little weird for us because our elementary school was by first name.
Really? Because it wasn't until we got to college that first names were a thing.
Right. No, yeah, it was elementary school. So like my, I guess she technically wasn't even my teacher, but she was the other class's first grade teacher, Miss Sue. My first grade teacher was Miss Marcy. And so it was like, Miss Jill, Miss Rebecca, Miss Holly, so it was like, so it was still Mrs., but we called her first name. Then middle school and high school was last name. And we had bad habits of literally just calling them last name without any honorifics like Timken or Jones.
And no, for true.
For truth?
Yeah, for truth. For real.
Yeah.
But I will say what was funny though, did you guys ever have somebody who like legit called someone, yo, teach? Because we had those kids. They got promptly written up.
I don't think we ever had anyone say, yo, teach. But I think that is kind of when it started of people, especially in my grade, I think is when it really started. Of us being like, yo, Timken.
Yo, Timken.
Yo, Timken, what's up? Or, yo, buddy, because her last name was Buddy. Like, yo, buddy, what's up? She was really chill about it. Actually, most of them were. Yo, Sanders, what's up?
Getting back on track.
Sorry.
It's okay. I like how when Rhys does talk about the Illyrians, he's just like, well, I could break into all their minds and make them agree, but it'd be way too easy. Cassian would be pissed at me, and also that's not the way to do it. Because there are some boundaries that you should not push.
And also Cassian would be pissed at him.
Yeah, because that wouldn't be earning it.
Cassian is an honest male.
I know.
He's an honest male that does things, well, not by the book, but by his honor code.
It's so funny because your boy isn't even in these chapters. So sad.
Where's my shadow daddy?
So, I mean, we know this kind of from previous books, but like Cassian rarely calls Rhys to help him on these deals. So the fact that he is, like, Rhys is already thinking like something's wrong. It's like not only the Illyrians are a problem, but like with the wall being down, they're like facing potential onslaught of people vying for power of the human lands. And it's like, okay, one person trying to, because nobody else, none of the other High Lords are like doing that shit. Like he's the only one that's trying to prevent that.
Just like before, Rhys is the only one doing stuff.
Dude, it's so upsetting.
Also, like remembering that it makes sense the Illyrians are a bit pissy from losing so many warriors.
Yeah, especially from that one cauldron blow. But they were also, because they fought since Adriata, versus the other warriors didn't get there until later after the High Lord meeting. So they were kind of the ones that took a lot of the casualties.
Yeah, and injuries, and yeah.
So them being isolated up in the Illyrian mountains with only themselves, like, is potentially dangerous without somebody there.
Keeping an eye on them.
Yeah. So I hate the fucking low blow of Cassian standing up for himself and saying, like, the boys have two hands, why don't they help? And then Devlin says, well, some do. Some came back with only one. And
or none at all. And it's like,
oh my god.
And Rhys is just like, I felt the blow more than saw it.
Because it's so sad, because we know Cassian as a character, he takes that all in, and he takes that all as like a personal failing.
Because he cares for the Illyrians that treated him like shit.
No, it's like, baby.
Because that's who he is, and also, he takes his role as a general very seriously. And
who does that sound like?
Right.
Jeez. So it's of course like immediately Rhys sees red, and he's like, takes matters into his own hands. They're training for 90 minutes. The boys pitching in to clean when they can. That's it. End of discussion.
I mean, which is a good mediator, not quite from a neutral third party, but
right.
That's still, him stepping in as High Lord. Also, earlier, when it's like, like Devlin like, didn't answer Cassian, but was just like turned to Rhys and like, is that in order? It's like if Cassian says it is, then it is in order.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Because if it said something else, and that would have been, it wouldn't have cemented Cassian.
Right. But it's like, no, Cassian is telling you to do this, so therefore
you will listen to him.
Yes. And if I tell you to listen to Cassian.
But also Rhys kind of made sense in a way when he said, the females have had casualties too, right? Like they had husbands and sons and brothers, like they need this as much as the guys do. So like, come on now.
Mm-hmm.
So then with that being said and done, right? I love this transition from like big bad Rhys to like they're going to his mom's house, his mom's cabin in Windhaven. And he's like,
where he's taken Feyre literally everywhere.
He's like, there isn't any place in here where I haven't taken Feyre. And it's like, wait, so you've been up here more times?
Probably since then.
One.
Right.
I know of the one.
Where, of course, he kicked Cass and Moore out.
I'm sorry, that is so fucking hilarious to me.
To take her on the table, which specifically I think he has a thing for tables and Feyre. Or Feyre on the tables.
So he has a thing for tables and she has a thing for walls. Yeah. So I just need to find me a guy who has a thing for tables. Okay, so I love that. Like, they're in his... I mean, again, they respect that that's where their mom raised him, but he's just like, yeah, no, like...
It's like, oh yeah, I took Feyre on the table, and like, oh yeah, that fire is where my mom made us food every night.
The juxtaposition between that, it's like, Rhys, why are you mean?
He's also horny because he hasn't had a lot of time with his mate.
So it's like, yeah, that's what the holiday... It's like, Rhys seems to need a holiday, because he hasn't really been sleeping in the same bed as Feyre, not only, but like also been with her sexually. So it's like...
It's either they get to sleep for 3 hours, or they get to fuck for 3 hours.
This motherfucker, it's so funny. He's talking about how the previous week he was so busy that like they were flying somewhere and like he picks her up and he says, I looked into those blue-gray eyes and I just had to take her up in the air. And I'm like,
one look and he was unfastening her pants.
Oh my God.
And nearly plummeted the moment he was inside her.
He's like an Illyrian well. And it's like, okay, first of all, the fucking skill that it must have taken to do that.
To maneuver her. I mean, to be fair, though, the moment he was inside her, he nearly crashed them into a building. No. Whoever owned that building, poor them.
It just makes me think of that fucking TikTok where it's just like, okay, kids go inside.
Yep. It's just like, oh my goodness. Okay, children, inside.
Which is so funny because like it says that they had a shield, but I don't think you could like shield the look. You might shield like the noise.
I mean, maybe he could blur it, but like that's still not usual. That's not normal.
Oh my God. So
the fact that he just like the moment that he heard her laugh at him being that,
we were literally gonna say the same thing.
Immediately climaxed.
It's like, wow, you really need to get some because damn,
he is pent up.
That's okay. Jokes aside, though, that level of passion for somebody, even after a long time, like...
Find someone who can make you climax in a few seconds just by laughing.
I mean, yes, but also, like, I don't know, find someone that you're passionate about because, like, life can get crazy, and so it's like, things aren't going to always be interesting. So that's why I, like, feel like people, when they get caught in the honeymoon phase, that's why a lot of, like, relationships end. Because, like, they get out of it, and then they get into that boring stage, and then they're like, they don't want to do it anymore.
Right. It's like, no, keep the honeymoon going the whole time.
It's like, no, if your guy can get passionate about you when there isn't like a big war going on, like, keep him.
Right.
So of course Rhys needs a holiday. So
desperately.
So the fact that throughout this conversation with Cassian, he's just like, he's sitting there on the kitchen table, arms crossed, and he's just like thinking about it. He's like really trying not hard to think.
Whereas if we were in Feyre's point of view, it's like you would have just seen Rhys just like spacing out or like nodding,
Now we get to finally think of what's going on in his head, and it's such a normal guy reaction.
It is.
It's like, yeah, I took her on this. What are you talking about?
It's like, oh yeah, I took her. Oh yeah, that was fun. Oh yeah, over there too. And then Cassian's like, yeah, I don't know, dissensions, like, lots of tension.
He's like, wait, what?
And he's like,
gotta actually do my job.
Yeah.
I even love Sarah's continued detail of, and maybe this is Sarah as an author for me, even in a book like this, which is kind of an off book, is that she even adds like the subtle details of like Rhys using his great power that he has. every now and then so that it doesn't get pent up. Because, like, he'd like the fire on and whatever. And so he's like, I let go a little bit of that power. And it's like reminding us again how much like power he actually
It also
has.
makes me think of like in that first book, albeit like, Tamlin didn't have his full power, but like even when just lighting flames and stuff, took everything out of him.
Yeah.
Versus now, like, obviously their power's back, but Rhys just barely lighting the fire, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's better.
I feel it's like more powerful guy. So yes, kind of like Liesl was already saying, dissension is brewing amongst the Illyrians, and it's unlike last time. Because the last time, it was after Amarantha, and they killed a bunch of people because they actually were doing quote-unquote bad things.
They were rogues.
This is more of a, how do I say? This is more of an internal, more mental struggle than a physical one.
More diplomatic.
And so this time, it's like Rhys, Cassian, and Azriel sent them into battle. Like, everybody thinks that this is like them getting back at them, the Illyrians and all their people, for treating them terribly their whole lives. Which is so crazy to think, because I'm just like, you guys are a warrior race. War is what you do.
That's what you legit train for.
Why are you thinking all of a sudden that it's like,
your purpose is to serve the High Lord and follow the General's order because the General is under the High Lord.
Because, like, and then it makes me think of the Blood Right. You are following a warrior, so why are you thinking that it has anything personally to do with anything?
Right.
And so, of course, like, the females are, thinking it too, and it's like, they don't know anything. Like, they're just listening to their husbands, brothers, whoever.
Right.
And it's like, they have to handle this peacefully with no violence. So, like, basically, Rhys wants somebody to be stationed up at the Illyrian camps permanently until this shit is gone. So, Cassian wants to do it, because obviously, he's probably the only one who'd actually do it. But like Rhys is like, no, I want everybody in the townhouse solstice together. You can do that afterwards. And he's like, but no.
It's like, nope, two days before solstice, one day after, we're spending this together as a family because we fucking deserve it.
He's like, pent up a little bit, Rhys? And it's like, God damn it, how does he know?
It's just like, yeah, like, you good? And he's just like, it's nothing. And Cass is like,
It's just, that's kind of like me and you sometimes, where there will be a level of like, how the fuck did she know that? I didn't say anything. Like,
it's like, oh yeah, we know that look though.
It's like, not the pent up, because that's, well, not us, but more like the, something up?
And it's like, no, nothing's up. And then the person's like, well, is it this? It's like, what the fuck?
Actually, no, it is. So
it's like, no, actually.
So regardless of also what happened on the kitchen table in this place, I do love how you mentioned the fond memories the boys have, because they're remembering their first winter solstice with his mom. God, Rhys's mom, dude, is one of the my most wanted character to know more about in this books.
Yeah,
I think so. Or I want moments with her.
More memories with her.
Yes, because it's just like, she seemed like such a badass, and I really want to know.
Yeah, a strong female character. And also Cassian, remembering his first solstice.
And he was like trying to hold back tears.
Imagine like that being his first gift ever. And then Rhys's mom was crying too.
Because she knew. Yeah.
She probably felt it too.
Oh yeah. So it makes my heart happy.
Yeah.
Specifically reading this. And then, of course, Rhys, very similar to Feyre, has the very triggering moments of like when Cassidy terrified him twice when he almost got gutted, and then when he almost died with Nesta,
because Feyre showed him.
Yes. I am so fucking shocked. I mean, I am and I'm not surprised that Cassian and Nesta haven't talked to each other the whole time since, but I'm still thinking like, what the fuck? It's been 5 months and this guy...
We were shipping them, and then once Nesta was actually in Velaris, even up at the House of Wind, Cassian was visiting her every day.
Every day.
Talking to her every day, and now they've not talked for 5 months after sharing a kiss.
And he put his heart out on the floor. He said, I will love you in every lifetime.
It's like, I will find you in the next lifetime.
It's like...
Okay, bish, well, I'll not see you for the rest of this lifetime. I'll see you in the next.
Which totally makes me think that she's a runner, for sure. Like, once she gets, like, somebody throwing, like, all these lovey things at her, she's just gonna run from it.
She's not used to it.
Because she's such a confronter that this is something she can't confront. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we get a little bit more. I kind of like how over time we get a little bit more about Nesta, where it's like, Nesta apparently is, like, cloistered herself into this really shitty apartment in Belarus across the Sidra.
In the slum.
In one of the only slums in Belarus. And it's like, how did you find the worst place to go?
The shittiest place in Belarus. A beautiful city. And you found the shittiest place to live. That is a level of low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And self-loathing.
Right. And so, they go on and talking about how Devlin's not one of the rebels because he's been pretty fair to the bastard born under his command, just not nice to the females. And apparently, Rhys has to go meet with 2 of the surviving priestesses from Césaire. So if we remember that, that's
one of the temples that was sacked for the Cauldron Foot.
Mm-hmm. And only 2 people survived. That's bad.
Out of an entire temple of priestesses.
That is bad. I feel so bad. He's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be late for that meeting. It's like, no, probably not.
No. Probably not a good thing to be late for.
Oh my god. So then, of course, talking about how apparently the Bat Boys have a solstice tradition, which we won't go into now because it's specifically hidden until we figure it out. And I like that. I like how it's subtly.
I was so curious about what it is because, I love everything with all 3 Bat Boys, even the Shadow serious one.
Yeah.
Who has a cocky side.
No, and
and that. But it's like, okay, something all 3 of them do and have been doing for centuries. I need to know what this is.
Because they were talking about how they go up to the cabin for like a week or something and then they postpone that because I thought that was the tradition. And then it's like, no, but
that's their fall tradition of 5 days of hunting and drinking.
But it's personally something that you don't get told until it happens. And I really like that. So we're not going to talk about it because I want it to be hidden for everybody.
Yeah.
So they keep put your guesses. If this is your first time reading it, put your guesses into what you think it is.
The one thing I will say is I love how it's revealed.
For sure. And then, so then I love how then Cassian's like, because, they're talking about the solstice and everything with my Court of Dreams is always going to be interesting. And he stutters when he's asking about Nesta being there.
He's not even able to ask. He's just like, is, and Rhys is like, okay, I got you, brother.
It's so cute. So cute. Because it makes me think I'm just I could just totally see the kawaii thing of is she
this big strong general. And it's like, okay, so they haven't seen each other and clearly that's by Nesta's choice, not Cassian's.
And he wants to see her so bad. And it's so upsetting. Nesta, get your shit together.
Stop hurting this man.
Oh, but I love how Rhys thinks he can make Nesta be pleasant.
It's like she will be there and she will be pleasant.
It's like, think again, dude. When has that ever been an indication that she would be somebody pleasant? I want to see the interaction between her and Cassian so bad. I remember when I first read this, I was like, if we don't get it, I'm going to be upset. Because then we also have to remember it is Feyre's day. It's her birthday. And I'm thinking to myself, of course there's going to be drama. Of course. And she's going to be 21, which I remember when I was reading this, I wasn't 21 yet. I think when I read this, I was either 19 or 20. I was about to turn 21, I think. And I was, feeling oh my God, I'm 24 now. When I read these books, it was so long ago. When I was thinking 21, it's so funny because when I read these books originally, everybody was just like, oh my God, the age difference between Rhys and Feyre. And it's so funny when he talks about it because he's like, this 21-year-old shackled to me. And it's like, Cassian's like, yeah, you know what? I mean, your mom was 18, your dad's 900.
It's like, Rhys was like, and they were miserable. She was miserable. Also, yes, it has the comedic factor, but just before that, of just I know that look, you bastard, stop it. It's like we all need a friend to say that. It's like, I know that look, I know what you're thinking, and stop it.
No, she loves you more than I've seen anybody love anyone. And I love that he says that because he really does need it.
The legend of the mating bond that they were told as children. That he didn't believe, he thought it was bullshit until Rhys and Feyre came along.
Well, because in every instance, it actually has been true where the mating bond has seemed like it's bullshit. Because Tamlin's parents, Rhys's parents, the only other mating bonds that we've seen that are actually good are Miriam Draken's, Vivian and Callius's, and I think that's it. I feel like they're the only two.
I think so.
So I guess in Night Court standards, they haven't seen one that's actually been successful in a really long time.
Or the one of saying legit, the mating bond is a good thing, they're meant to be together. There's deep love, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and we haven't seen that.
Yeah, so it's so funny, right? Because it's I feel like I kind of get the same feeling as Rhys sometimes, where thing things can kind of seem sort of too good to be true, and it's like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I agree with Cassian though in this point, because Reese is just like, it feels like I can't be this happy without having to pay for it. It's like, dude, you fucking died for it.
It's like you did 2 times over.
Before, like, you even had to.
Yeah, so it's like, I do agree with Reese in certain instances. In this way, I totally would not.
It's like, dude, you've already died. You've already sacrificed so much. Did you learn nothing from dying?
I guess not. No, of course not. Of course not.
I mean, I suppose that's good that his character doesn't change, but
true.
Seriously, why, Reese?
So it's like, yeah, I kind of agree though with Cassian and like him saying, dude, nobody would freaking blame you if you and Feyre just wanted to pull a Miriam and Draken and fucking leave and never see anybody again. And it's like, for real though.
Honestly, the inner circle would follow them.
Yeah, because the difference between, I'm not saying Miriam and Draken are bad, especially the war 500 years ago, like, I mean, it definitely probably fucked them up and they wanted peace.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between them and Feyre and Reese are that they're actually staying, trying to make a better world and not just being by themselves.
Because that's how they are. Like, they're both, like, helpers. They really are meant for each other.
Yeah, so it's just, I mean, Miriam and Draken are fine, but, like, I think Reese and Feyre are trying to do more with it. And I really hated the end, though, when, like, you know, because Reese cares so much. He's like, well, I'm happy, but brother, are you happy? And he's like, nah, not yet.
He's like, I'm getting there.
It's like, oh, foreshadowing, and I love it.
At the same time, it makes me so sad.
Because I'm like, how long are we going to wait for you to actually have a good ending, my man?
And he's just like, I'm getting there, and I'm thinking to myself, oh dear, that's going to take a while, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, speaking of, we get our first Cassian POV in chapter 3, and I'm so hyped.
He's rather smart, you know?
I know. Okay, so reminder for the audience, this is...
Reminder, breathe.
Well, that's more for me. That's more for me. But what's interesting about this book and then the books to come is because this, you know, book has been in Feyre and Reese's POVs, theirs are written in first person, while everybody else's is written in third person. Mm-hmm. So anytime there's anything else besides them two, it'll be third. I had to get used to that a little bit because this is also a transition book between POVs. And so,
but like, it kind of makes sense to me.
It does. It didn't, like, you know, viscerally hit me or anything. Mm-hmm. But I definitely just had to adjust.
Right.
I mean, it tells you whose perspective it is at the beginning of the chapter. It's fine.
Which is very nice.
So
very nice of you, Sarah.
So of course, you know, it's all these chapters are right after each other in events. So Reese is gone, Cassian's still thinking and brooding. There's no actual dialogue in this. This is literally all Cassian's thoughts. I understand Cassian feeling like he's the outlier because as he sees Reese winnow away, like, he doesn't have any magic like that. And Azriel has whatever move he has because technically it's not winnowing.
Right, it's just disappearing into his shadow.
Yeah, so it's like shadow walking.
Kind of.
Sort of. So the fact that he feels like that, like, already off the bat, it's like, okay, babe, but you're like the best warrior though.
Damn it, Devlin, for putting him down.
I love the fact though that when he's about to fly off, all of the Illyrians are just so jealous of his wings, and I'm like, hilarious.
Well, we gotta know that his wingspan is bigger than theirs.
Oh, for sure. Because apparently that's what he said. Like, it's a thing. Illyrians are, and it has nothing to do with dick size. Like, at least when they think about it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's literally just about, damn, his wings are thicker and bigger than mine. And it's like, wow, that is such a euphemism if you said it in the wrong way.
Wow, he's thicker and bigger than I am.
If you weren't saying it in a fantasy context, it'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah, it'd take you a minute.
It's like, whoa. I mean, they're probably also talking about that.
Probably.
But, like,
and they'd probably still be jealous of that too.
Of course. So having this POV with Cassian flying is really nice, and we get a lot of ... lore alerts here. So apparently, like, we know this, but we're getting it from Cassian. Of course, the Illyrians aren't the worst thing that are in these mountains. Like, he reminds us about when Feyre in Mist and Fury was going through trying to save Reese, and he's like, I can't believe she didn't run into it.
I mean, if we do remember, like, after she did save Reese, she was hiding in there, and she kept hearing those strange sounds and the screams of something dying when she, well, actually, that part was when she was winnowing through the trees. Mm-hmm. But it's like the screams of something dying. It's like, so we got little tastes of it. And, you know, when she went out to catch the cereal again, it was just like, yeah, I chose not to look at the giant, like, footprints in the ground.
So it's like, now I really, because he said that, now I really wonder if we're gonna see him.
Yeah.
I was like so interested, right? Because I really wanted to know.
Something that made even Cassian shiver.
Right. Also, I love the lore alert about Ramiel. So, Reese, throughout the series, kind of gave us some things about the Blood Right, but we didn't know as much as... Because when some people do Akachar, like, reread podcasts like this, they talk about all the specifics of the Blood Right, and it's like, we never knew those things until now. This is the moment when we figure all those things out, because Reese never said this.
To be fair, though, as the way that it seems Cassian is talking, as was dragging, half carrying, half hauling Reese up.
All we heard before was that, like, it was a blood right, but that done by the Illyrians every spring, and then they kind of barely made it through.
Lots of killing, and it was a hard trek, and
it was mostly focused on the fact that they were all bastards and that they shouldn't have been there in the first place. And so, like, we don't really get the mechanics of this. So I like how we get this. So, of course, Ramiel is the Night Court's tallest mountain. It was just louder than the other ones. I like how Cassian talks about it as awake and watchful.
Right.
Because that...
different than the monstrosity in the center.
Yeah, so, like, the other mountain under the... Like, where under the mountain is, they don't really have a name for that one. It's literally just the middle.
Or the bare peak in the middle.
Yeah, so Ramiel's, like, the only one that has a name. And so, of course, that's where the Night Court insignia is from and whatnot. And no one is permitted on those grounds around that mountain or on the mountain itself.
No cheating.
Except for the Blood Right.
No cheating.
And of course, like, again, we've only heard, like, briefly, but now we're getting the full download. So we get this snapshot of Cass hauling Reese up to the peak with Asriel providing cover for them on the behind and winning the whole thing, which the whole point of getting to Ramiel is touching the stone at the top.
Which no one knows why it's there.
No, and apparently it's just there. And apparently with all the snow and stuff, snow can't get on it. I read that little thing. So apparently it's, like, untouched by snow.
I don't know if this should be off the record, but I'm going to say it anyway. I read a bit of a controversy that that stone is a grave. Now, the theory I had, or that I saw on that was that it was a grave, and that's why Ramiel had a name. Because it was, Ramiel was a person that was buried there and then formed the mountain underneath.
Maybe it was the first warrior, because, well, no, that he had a different...
Right.
But, yeah. So, like, of course it's interesting, right? Because basically this blood right is for warrior novices that they... Well, first of all, they have to go through trials before the blood right. So it's almost like they have to...
Qualifiers.
Yeah, I was going to say. Like a qualifier, and then they get the 1 week to Ramiel. And so... Wings bound, no siphons, no magic, no supplies. I called it before, like, basically a voluntary Hunger Games.
Yep.
Where they get thrown in and, like, nothing.
And they get to choose if they want to win and get to the top or just want to go hunting for other people.
Which is so wild to me, because the whole point of like, getting to Ramiel, so it's funny how, like, people will waste their time on blood feuds when they could be trying to get up to, like, this elite warrior status. But instead they're, like, you know, petty men who are just gonna feud and kill each other.
Which, to be fair, I mean, like Cassian says, it's like, it's a good way for them to work off feuds and tension and stuff.
Which I agree. I agree, it really does do that. I think it's just funny that you could be getting one thing. Well, to be honest, though, Cassian does say even surviving the blood right at all is a feat. Like, because you're a warrior after that regardless. Like, you just have to survive. That's it.
Right.
I love how it's also like, it's like the distance, the environment, the enemies. Like, it's like, I also love how the 3 stars around Ramiel only happen during the blood right.
They only align perfectly that time.
And that's where the Night Court insignia comes from. And it's like, I love his question, because I wanted to ask this of us and of the audience. Which did you think came first? Do you think the right came first or the insignia came first? I'm going to say the right.
I think so. I think I was going to say the insignia, but like...
Really?
But more along the lines of... I mean, okay, I could see how the right could have been first, but like, I don't think it would have been like the right then. Like, it could have like just been a group of people going there, or like the person that made the insignia, like just going in and maybe he was being hunted or something and he made it to the top and he saw the stars or something like that. So I don't think it was necessarily the right as we were learning about it, but it could have been some kind of that led to the person seeing seeing the mountain and the stars.
I guess it's an interesting question because there's not like really a right or wrong answer since we don't know.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
But it's like the reason I think it's the right is because like why would somebody put the insignia? I mean, that makes sense the way you're saying it, but why would somebody put it as so much of an importance if like they didn't know what that importance was? And it seems like the Illyrians are kind of like an important aspect of the culture. I do like how when Asriel talks about it, he's like a week of pointless bloodshed. It's like, well, of course he would say that.
Yeah.
So sorry, I know that was a side note, but going back to the right thing, the reason I think it's the right is because, again, who would know the importance and the Illyrians. I also love how they talk about the stone pillars. Like there's just on top of Romuel, there's like a stone pillar and then this like sort of arch thing. And it's like no snow touching it. And it's like, that seems very magical and purposeful.
It's like a gateway.
It's like, that's questionable already.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I catch it. I also love how when he talks about it, like, because this isn't really what we got from Rhys, though. It is rare, and I'm talking rare as fuck, for anyone to make it up to the mountain and touch the stone. Because not only do they have to make it to the mountain itself, but they have to climb it. And so, like, most people make it halfway up the mountain, or they make it to the base of the mountain, but not all the way up.
All within a week.
All within 1 week, dude. And I love how when Cassian talks about it, he's like, nobody in his 500 years has made it.
Well, only a few. Yeah, of just like, yeah, I guess in my 500 years, I can only count a dozen or so that have actually made it.
And it's like,
wow, okay.
So, but apparently the power was worth it because to feel the power of the stone, I wonder if that's why. I mean, if there are other warriors like them who did touch the stone, I wonder if that's why they're, I mean, I think it's because they're bastard born, but also I think that might be why they have more power. Because if that's you showing as much of a warrior as you can be, then it would make sense, right?
Right. It would probably amplify by a certain amount what each person had as their power. And if the boys already had that much power anyway.
It just makes me think, because makes me think of those fucking grunts that are just killing people on the ground floor. And they're like, I could have so much power, but you know what? I'm going to get the little peon of just, completing the right instead of getting the whole thing.
Right. Just because I want to kill this guy that pissed me off the other day.
It's annoying. So as we're seeing Cassian, apparently he had a purpose, which this is so fucking sad, but at the same time so inspirational.
And gives us more background info on him.
So we kind of knew this, but he's kind of giving us more of a crash course of this. Cassian flew all the way up to his mother's old camp where she lived and died, and where Cassian was born. Reminding all of us that Cassian killed legit everybody and burned this place to the ground for what they did to his mother.
I think something I caught on this reread that I didn't the last time there were some people that weren't involved, but they went off to other camps or lived on their own because they did not want to stay there. It's like, okay, I don't blame you.
I mean, yeah, he didn't kill innocents, but anybody who's...
Honestly, props to him. In his rage, he still didn't kill innocents.
He's like talking about like, the damage I can do, and I'm like, dude, you didn't kill the innocents. You're fine. Why are you acting like you're big, tough, and bad?
Like you're a bad guy? Like, no.
No, you're not.
You were avenging your mother who was treated like shit.
So, I mean, of course, he's like, I do not regret it.
Good.
And it's a fact of timing, right? Because especially with these Fae, like, timing is slower for them. So when Cassian was finally stronger and older to come for her, she was already gone.
And, okay, what pissed me off was that they didn't tell him where they put her body.
First of all, that's very questionable. Because why? Why would they, if in all of their torture, not say anything? Unless she's like, fucking, what if she's not dead? Like, okay, I mean, I know that's kind of theory, but when have you ever in a fantasy just trust that somebody's dead?
That's
if
true.
you don't see it.
That's true.
Like, how do you know? How do you, like, you're just guessing.
Maybe, like, since she ended up being a strong warrior, which is how Cassian had such power. And then, and this is, again, still all in theory. And then she finally got away from these torturous bastards, and they are pissy because she got the better of them.
Or maybe, like, I don't know, this might be, like, totally off the cuff, but what if, because I think Rhysand's sister's still alive, what if she she's just been saving maidens across the Illyrian peaks and just saved her, and they're in some camp somewhere, I don't know, like...
It would be an interesting theory if the sister was alive still.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
That's really weird that nobody, even when these guys have been tortured to near death, they're like, we're not going to tell you what we did. It's like, that makes me think, because, hear me out, if these guys were as bad as you'd think you'd want to say, yeah, I did this to her, and I did that.
I mean, but, like, they were doing that in their last, like, rasping breath. They did tell him all of the things they did to her.
Yeah, but, like, I'm talking about, like, being dead, like, and killing like,
well, we don't know exactly
did
what
this
they
to
said.
Well, yeah, we don't know, but well, maybe they did. Fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like,
it depends on what they end up saying of like, oh yeah, we cut her to bits.
but they could have also said that, but then she didn't actually.
That's true.
They could have been lying. I just think it's weird that there's no body. That's all I'm trying to say. Because he thinks that she just got dumped in the river somewhere.
Thrown off a cliff or something.
It's like, he wanted to bury her in Valaris where there was happiness and sunshine. And
that she never got.
He's such a good man.
He was treated right by Reese's mother.
Oh my god, yeah. But okay. That's all I have to say about that. You can say in the comments what you thought. Like, I don't think she's dead. I think that's sus for sure. Because I've learned in fantasy, if there's no fucking body and we didn't see it, I don't trust that just somebody's gone like that.
That's valid.
That's why the whole thing with Reese and Bear's mom, even with the head, just the fact that there's no body, because you can
live without your head.
From Throne of Glass, we know for a fact that people could just fake a head.
That's true.
Like, no, I want to see a body.
I suppose that's fair. Although I would think that Reese would know his mother and sister's heads.
Maybe there was somebody that glamored it enough to where maybe he was in distress. He was younger.
That's true.
So he wouldn't have maybe had as much power to know it was fake.
That's true.
Anyway, that's all I'm just trying to say. So I think I love Cassian so much of thinking about how much he loves his people despite like their faults. And so he goes up here for a reminder of his mother to know why he's fighting so hard for these women, because he's like, if they had some resources or had something, maybe they could stand up to the men in their lives. And I'm like, oh my god. And he's trying to save all the women because he couldn't save his mom. So he's trying to save all the other women.
Which is why he's fighting so hard for it.
What he wants is so honorable and noble that I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with Nesta?
Right.
What is wrong with her?
Like, why doesn't she want him?
My thought when I was first reading this was that she wants him so much that it's like, nah.
She has to stay away from him.
No, I can't. Like, it's when a guy is like there, right? And he's like so great and you're no, but I can't. I can't, no. So it is funny, speaking of Nesta, he doesn't want to think about her for too long, and he doesn't want to think about her up here, because he said it doesn't end well for the other person on the receiving end of his training that day. Have someone that fights you so hard that when he thinks about you, he just gives him an ring. And especially at the end, I really do appreciate how Sarah adds in there the pressure of him being like one of the most powerful Illyrians, because there's a level of like, not only pressure because he's a bastard born, but also like him having to be the one to set this in motion, which is hard for anybody to have that pressure on them. So I'm like, babe, you got this. Please. You fix those Illyrian habits.
You do it. You're gonna be able to do it.
Right. Like, okay, time to make it count.
I got 3 days.
Until solstice. So yeah, then we go back to Feyre's point of view in the Rainbow of Valaris, the artist quarter, if you remember. Everybody's kind of milling about. It's still crazy to me that one person is like, oh, the High Lady. Like, okay, I can imagine kind of everybody kind of just milling past her, but there not being one person that's just like, oh my god, is wild to me.
Right. Although when she's looking in the window and they're all just like trying not to look back at her.
It's like if you saw a celebrity going across and it's like Chris Evans is looking in my house. It's like, hell yeah.
It's like, I'm shopping in here. Oh my god, is that the High Lady looking in here? Keep cool, everyone. Keep cool. Maybe she'll come in.
So I love how when she's walking about, she actually stumbles across the gallery that she defended in Agamath during the first Valaris attack with the adder-like ilk, whatever. And of course, she's getting triggered by that and trying not to trigger herself. And then, of course, she talks about how she loves flying and how it's nice. And she brings up the little mini incident. She's like, yeah, well, flying is good. Or no, she said she doesn't like flying in the cold. But the last time they went flying, it was rather warmer. I love the difference between her bringing it up and Reese bringing it up. Because when Reese brings it up, he goes into full-blown detail. Yeah. And she's just like, yeah, this was a little bit warmer than most. It's like subtle and then not subtle. But she is still keeping up her training with Azrael. So that's nice, huh?
From time to time when he's available.
Right.
He should always be available.
He's doing spy mastery things. He's just thinking about Azrael. So she doesn't mind being approached, but it's great that she hosts like this weekly meeting to hear the people's play. So her and Reese will literally sit in the House of Wind. So does everybody have to climb up the 10,000 steps to get up there to tell her about her
That sounds
problems?
about right. Unless they winnow them up.
Wow, what assholes. It's like, if you really want to come, then...
I mean, yeah, because like with like Starfall and stuff, like they would have had to come up unless, you know, they're winnowed up.
Maybe.
Maybe they're, but even then they couldn't be winnowed directly and they'd have to fall a bit.
You know, with all their fucking magic, they should be able to make an elevator.
They should.
Or an escalator or something. Make a moving staircase.
Imagine an escalator up those 10,000 steps.
It's like, okay, it's gonna be like...
It's like, da, 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 da.
Take fucking 20 minutes to get on it.
But then you can do the thing where, like, you can stop it, or, like, you can walk on it, and then stop when you get tired.
Imagine doing, like, the slide down on that thing. You just kill yourself.
You would pick up so much speed, you wouldn't be able to stop.
Yeah, I know, it's just flat. But, yeah, so I think it's beautiful. I think it's, like, another version of... It reminds me of the Tithe, even though it's not the Tithe.
Mm-hmm.
It's, like, a better version of what I feel like that was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not asking for anything.
Right. Instead, they're listening and offering themselves.
Right. And so, of course, Sarah is also the one to bring up that Nesta lives in the slums in one of the worst buildings of the city. And then, of course, she talks about how how Reese is donating to all these mothers and to the poor. And do we really need to have more reasons about why we love this guy? I mean, keep telling them, but we don't need any more. We already love Reese Sand.
And then he asked if Feyre had any places she wanted to donate to.
It's like, oh, when you have enough money to donate.
And Feyre was just like, oh, this is so much money.
I know. It's just like, no, but it's for the poor.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we kind of get that exposition from her while she's in her mind. Mm-hmm. And so she finally stumbles across this. So, you know, all the buildings are kind of rebuilt, but then she finds this very rubbled up building. Mm-hmm. And a woman comes from out of nowhere and just scares her. Huh? Who?
She like turns around and her feet slip on the icy cobblestone.
That's so you.
It is.
That is so you.
I'm like spacing out, thinking, and then it's like, hi. It's like,
especially like with your clumsiness, but also, you know,
I wouldn't be able to catch myself like she did. I would just fall.
I love how, and I remember this. I mean, I had to think about it for a minute, but because Sarah's detail is so spot on, this was the same lady who was defending the gallery with the rusted pipe during the attack. And I remembered her.
Which turns out it was her gallery.
Yes.
No wonder she was defending it.
I mean, fuck yeah. I mean, coming with a rusted pipe, just like, no.
She goes down to her basement, pulls out a rusted pipe, like, oh, this will work.
I paid so much money for this fucking place. You guys aren't going to ruin it.
I'm leasing this place. I'm almost paid off my mortgage. You are not going to break into it.
It's so true. So that's the girl. That's the woman and she's also a fairy, which is interesting because she looks very high fae, which is not normal.
She has like high fae qualities, but she has green skin and her ears are slightly more.
So she's like technically a lesser, but Feyre calls her a normal fairy because we don't call them lessers.
Right. It's just fae and fairy.
So she says the person at the rubbled up building that she was looking at, apparently they did escape. That one.
Which is good.
And then I just love how nonchalant she is to Feyre.
And Feyre's like trying to come up with a conversation.
She's like, hi.
Yeah. It's like, it's snowing. It's like, yes, it is. Yes, it is, lady.
Oh. So it says, but the other gallery that she was looking at, the woman did die.
It was almost like Feyre like turned around of like, oh, so I guess this story was okay. Like, what about that ruined building? It's like, nope.
Not so good, I'm afraid. Her name was Paulina, and it was her gallery, and it's like, shit.
Rip. Oscar has a friend named Paulina.
Oh, shit. It's like, I love the woman's brashness for telling her the truth about it. But I love then how she's just like, well, yeah, she has a sister and nieces and nephews. They're trying to sell it if you want it. Imagine somebody saying this person died and it was their like life's work, and then being like, yeah, they're gonna sell it.
Like, what if the person died in the gallery?
Who would want like at the moment when you said that?
Yeah.
Who would want it?
Yeah. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm not in the market.
Like, I'm not looking at it for that. Like, I was legit just asking. But then she's like, well, why not? I'm like, because you just told me this person died? Like, I don't want it.
Right.
But I do appreciate though how she's like, no, like, this is my gallery right here. Like, you can always come and talk to me. Like, and then she's like, well, as High Lady, and she's like, no, as an artist, as one of us. And it's like, oh.
One of us.
One of us. One of us. I love that. I love that, like, specifically this woman talking to her, which we find out her name is Racina.
Mm-hmm.
You could say it like Racina or Racinia. I think it's either. I think the graphic calls it Racinia.
There's no extra I.
I know, it's always Racina to me.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. So she offers Feyre to come over to her studio once a week to paint because apparently there's like it's almost like that wine and paint class where they're all just there at a late night and painting and talking and whatever. And Feyre's kind of like,
it's like, I'm sure. No.
Socializing.
Painting in front of others.
Which, as artists ourselves, I can kind of understand that. Not artists in painting, but like, if I'm trying to suss out like something by myself, like I have to be in my own space.
Like when we did karaoke the other night, it's like I love singing on my own time, but then I have to be in front of an audience and doing karaoke. Actually, maybe I should go sit down.
Or it's not going to be my best work.
Right.
Or there's a level if you're going to this painting class, you're not going to be putting out a bunch of great, like, it's literally socially.
Yeah.
And I love how when she talks about it, here, let me get the quote, she says, like, what sort of things do you paint? The things that need telling. God, I love that. I love that so much. Because it's like, that's so true.
And Feyre has a lot of things on her mind that need telling.
Right.
Although she probably shouldn't do that at a group class.
Please don't. Okay, first of all, nobody is seeing my guy. I'm not gonna be painting him for no fucking stranger of people. I just love how Ricinia is just so nice to her, or more casual to her. Like she's like
treating her like a normal person.
Because she's also like, hey, we all remember, we keep our distance, but like we appreciate what you did for us. Like you came to our aid first. Like we will never forget.
You came for us.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, come to this painting class. Of course, then we fast forward. We see Morgan, not Morgan.
Well, we do see Morgan.
Yeah, well, yes.
Morgan again.
Oh my god. I said it out loud and I was like, oh my god, that's so much like her name. I was like, So we fast forward and now they're in the Palace of Jewels because, of course, she's looking for a gift for Amren.
Amren deserves it.
Yeah, we don't see Amren or Asriel this whole chapters.
Well, we know where Amren is.
Yeah, of course we know where Amren is. In her apartment.
Probably with a guest.
Not alone. So, but again, I'm gonna understand that when she is looking for gifts for Amren, she's seeing like this big price tag. It's like, Moore has to remind her, she's like, we're well off, it's fine. And then they were just like,
you do realize how much money you have, right?
They were still like, oh my god, that's pricey, but I guess Amren deserves it.
Yeah.
I mean, Amren does deserve a big gift this year, not only because of saving them from Hybern, but also dying and then coming back.
And choosing to stay with them.
Choosing to stay, because she could have not.
Yeah.
And I love how when they talk about, like, so, by the way, like, I feel like this is one of those update episodes where it's like, okay, we're going to update you on everything going on. So Amren and Varian aren't technically together, or they're not technically anything. But let's remind everybody that Amren was born to be this vicious creature, meeting out death and destruction, but she chose to love Varian in the way that Amren can love anything.
A silver-haired princeling from Summer just happened to come along and melt her monstrous heart.
And because she's not like Varian, I love that. I love that Varian is just some random prince from some random territory who doesn't have much power, but apparently is great in bed.
Pleases her so much that she smirks whenever he supposedly comes to visit.
Like she struts like a cat in the morning, and it's like, we knew Varian was here, but we're not going to mention it because she will kill us.
Right. She wants Varian to herself for a little bit.
I love how he just he visits in secret, because I bet Tarquin doesn't know about that.
Probably not.
And so
because Varian's not going to be like, hey, Tarquin, I'm just going to head up to the Night Court to hang out with Amren.
So why don't they declare? Because I feel like if they declare something, then he has to choose then, and he doesn't want to choose yet.
No, he still has his responsibilities and his family in Summer.
But hey, fucking Cressida is also Princess of Adriata. She can just handle that.
That's true.
And then he can go and live in Villaris.
Isn't Varian like the head of the guard or something though?
Something like that. But like, dude, Cressida's got it, man.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't need two.
And he can still come back and visit from time to time.
Yeah, like I think Varian would like it so much more in the Night Court, to be honest. But I think everybody would like it so much better in the Night Court.
And Amren's not leaving. I mean, she's literally number 2.
She's still second, so
yeah, number 3 if you count Feyre in the ranking. But
I still think it's important though to remind everybody that she did choose to be with them over immortality, and like she gave up her power to come back. Of course, so then after that exposition and catch up, Moore and Feyre are like spying jewels for Amren. It seems like Moore doesn't really want anything, but of course we're gonna get her something. But update on her is she's been to Rita's, but she doesn't really give us any prospects of like
she's not ready to share with the family,
which is like so stupid.
Mainly I think she's just not ready to face Azriel still.
Oh no, but then she promptly brings him up and says, oh yeah, I bet Az has a bunch of weapons that, you know, he keeps because he's just too nice to give them away.
Brings Az up first.
It's like,
well, you've probably given swords and stuff to Cassian.
And then she fucking gets upset. She's like, because then, what does she say? It's like something, you honestly think he'd ever give up Truth Teller? And then she's like, well, he gave it to Elaine. You cannot be mad about that.
You cannot have both Az and Cass
you cannot
around your finger when you don't even like them in that way.
She can't. She cannot be mad about that. But she is. And she's kind of like, yeah, well, he gave it to Elaine, so it's like...
I mean, to be fair, I'm mad about that too, but not for the same reason she is.
But you actually care about him.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
And we all know my feelings, our feelings.
About Elaine.
So it's more so about Elaine rather than the fact that Az gave away Truth Teller.
Yeah, so it's like, I guess when thinking about gifts though, I think it's interesting. I mean, dude, I love you to death, but like 500 years of trying to get you gifts? Fuck. I feel like I'd run out of ideas.
That's 500 plus years that's 500 plus gifts to give.
I mean, they're always creating new things, so like I feel like there's a level of there's always something, but I feel like at some point...
Imagine having 500 plus daggers, though. It's like in a drawer somewhere. God. Which honestly, though, Az probably does polish them because they're from Moore.
True, because he's fucking sweetheart. I mean, just get the boys' weapons, basically. Get the boys' weapons and don't give Az any gifts out in the open because he doesn't want the attention. God, that's such a JK thing.
It is.
Oh my God. That is such a JK thing. I hate.
But it's also like, get them weapons that they haven't really seen before.
Get him a mace. Get Azriel a mace. Give the mace.
Give Cassian back the mace that Rhys stole from him.
It's like, here's... I mean, at that point, some people will just do gag gifts every year.
That's true.
At that point.
Or like every 5 years, give a good gift.
Yeah.
And then the other 4 are gag gifts.
Right. I also like how, Feyre brings up Vivian because, again, the Winter Court is celebrating winter solstice as well. I think everybody kind of does, but especially winter and night and, day. I love how it's like, yeah, I really hope she becomes a High Lady. I'm like, Callias hasn't made her High Lady yet? What the fuck?
It's like, well, she'll be High Lady soon if Vivian has anything to say about it.
It's like, hopefully, man. I also love, like, the bridge between the courts. Because it's like, indirectly, without trying, Moore is kind of bridging the divide between Callias and Rhys. And it's really nice. And I know sometimes people can get a lot about that, with it's like, oh, it's just the women. And it's like, dude, the women are crucial in this. Like, they're crucial for the diplomacy that is going on here. Like, yeah, they might be being girly to each other and whatever, but it's like, that...
They also know how...
That is also... Dude, they're fucking badass women. Don't even. And apparently, we find out from Moore that the Winter Court solstice is a whole week, and it closes borders for that whole week. And I'm thinking, what the fuck are they doing?
They don't want any scandals getting out.
I want to know what the hell they're doing for a week.
No scandals, just partying.
Because she does say that it's a lot of partying and drinking, and then even the polar bears
pulling the
stuff.
sleighs.
It's like, oh, it's like a little Christmas episode. You know what the Winter Court reminds me of? The original Rudolph. Like that area. Yeah. That's what it makes me think of. But yeah, I kind of love how it talks about the different cultures celebrating like different aspects of the holiday, and like how it's interesting because in the Night Court they're celebrating the longest night of the year, whilst in winter they're celebrating the winter solstice. Yeah. So it's like, I like how it's different aspects of that holiday. So, but Moore didn't just come to help Feyre pick out jewels for Amren. Apparently Rhys, Moore, and Feyre are headed to the Hewn City per tradition.
Has to be in every book.
We have to go to this fucking court every interesting book. To wish the Court of Nightmares well.
Mm-hmm. And probably check up on them, make sure they're not doing anything stupid.
Like, how many times? But also, that adds interesting drama, so of course I always like going.
Mm-hmm.
But good God. Though I did find a roll credits in here.
Mm.
It was, we eased through the densely packed heart of the palace, passing between the latticework of fey lights just beginning to twinkle awake overhead. From a slumbering quiet place inside me, the painting name flitted by, Frost and Starlight.
Mm-hmm.
Roll credits.
I highlighted that too.
I had to say it out loud because that quote is like, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
here it is. So Moore is making them go tonight because they don't want to actually ruin the festivities, which is, I think, is a good idea.
Even though they still have 5 days until solstice.
They do, but like leading up to it, I guess.
That's
They're just
true.
like, we want it as far away as possible.
Yeah, do it as soon as possible.
So apparently, Eris is also going to be there tonight, which, why? Interesting?
Yeah, they're, becoming buddy-buddy, Kiara and Eris.
He's just getting thrown in there because we need to see Eris again.
And we do get a mention of Az.
We do. We can mention. He will come about in the other.
How does Azrael know? It's Azarus.
Yeah, like, I really do want to know how he knows all this shit sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, how the hell did he know that Eris was going to show up? Because, like, I mean, I know he has a bunch of spies, but, like...
I mean, but also, like, I'm sure at this point, at least this is my theory, is, Azrael has been checking in with all of his spies and connections and stuff in the other courts. I guess the theory that I had was that Eris isn't one of his spies, but is like a connection, to keep an eye on Baron, because their alliance is still seemingly kind of tentative, but still kind of there.
So it could have been as easy as if Eris just told him he was coming.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like, if they, like, met up for check-in or whatever. Or, like, if Azrael tried to check in as, like, well, I'll be up in the night court soon enough anyway.
Bitch, when you come?
Right, so that's my theory about that.
That makes sense. So we stay in Feyre's perspective. And back in the bedroom under the blankets, and I was like, yeah, Breeze is coming, is he?
Reading a book,
just like this.
instead of doing work, which is relatable.
Yeah, very much. Especially this week, man.
Yeah.
Also, Feyre is such a good mate. I know, I want to say this, like, because I know I've said this more about Rhys in the last couple books, because it was more Feyre kind of, figuring herself out and more. But, like, she is so good to Rhys at the beginning here. It's so cute. He walks in fucking exhausted as shit, and she's like, do you want to, like, postpone? Like, we could tell more another time. And he's like, why? I want to see Eris. And it's like, babe, you look like you haven't slept.
You look like you're about to pass out. And he's like, I'm fine. It's like, when have you eaten? I had an apple this morning.
She's like, I thought so. Wash, change, I'm going to get some.
And he's like, no, you don't need to. And she's like, I am going to.
It's like, I want to, and I'm going.
Undress now.
It's like, okay, bitch. Okay. He wouldn't call her bitch. I'm just calling her bitch.
Scene all over again, just flipped roles.
True. So Feyre go get some food. And I love how classic Rhysand. She's like trying to be all like wifey to him. And then he like tries to pull her on his lap. And then she's just like, no. Eat. And then he's like, then I'll eat you after. And I'm like, girl.
I'm thinking in my head of like, yeah, I know he's horny and he's had a long day, but like she is not. She's gonna be like, okay, you're gonna eat now and then you're gonna sleep.
Yeah, it's like, no. And then he's like, God damn it, why do you have to be so good?
Why do you have to care for me when I just want sex?
That's how you know you're in a good relationship.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you have to be so good to me? I just want sex from you, but I also don't.
Yeah.
It's just, I love two fussing mates. We love it.
That fuss at occasional times.
Because then we get a very interesting detail that I didn't think Sarah was going to throw into here, but I'm glad because...
That add normalcy?
Yeah. Again, it's adding like a realism to the fantasy, which I like. So, Feyre apparently found out that she does have a period now. In her Fey mortality, it's only twice in a year, but it is the most excruciating fucking pain times 10. To the point where Maja was like, I mean, I can knock you unconscious. Like, that's the only way you're not going to feel anything. Right. And I'm like, thinking about as a normal woman, thinking about how a period is. And I'm like, you're telling me it gets worse than that? The fuck are you talking about? Would never. Would you do that if you could be immortal? Have 2 times in the year having like a fucking excruciating, but you had Azrael?
Yeah.
I would take the 2 pieces.
Yeah. Only doing it twice a year, first of all, that's a good bargain. Even though it's like more painful, it's like I already personally feel like cramps are way worse than normal people's cramps. So it's like, I mean, I already am in so much pain. If it's more pain, then, you know, I'll pass out. Great. Woohoo. And now if I had a mate or a handsome shadow daddy to take care of me.
No hands down. No comparison. Hell yeah. So I just love how like Reese stayed with her the whole time, rubbed her hair, like cleaned her up too. As somebody who's never been in a really long-term relationship, there's a level to where that is a little embarrassing.
Oh, definitely.
Like to have somebody that you're so comfortable with where it's like blood is blood and it's but also it's
like all those couple videos that are on TikTok, YouTube right now that are just like girlfriend pranks of saying, oh, I can't find my tampon, it's too far up there or whatever, and they're like, all right, spread your legs, let me look.
There's a part of me that's just like is laughing at that, and then it's like, oh, that's kind of sweet in a weird way.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I can't find. It's like, okay, let me shine a light in here, let me.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm already down there anyway, so it's fine. Right. I mean, that's probably what they're thinking.
Probably.
I just think it's so cute. Like the level of cuteness that he has. He's like, your cycle is nothing to be trivial about.
Yeah, favorite just being like, oh yeah, but you like mother hen over such trivial things. He's like, it is not trivial.
I guess in that way, I would think I agree with him. Yeah, it's not.
It's not. And we already knew Reese was a mother hen.
True.
He is to all of his inner court. Even to Amber to an extent.
True. But I love how the subtle shift of like, well, I guess if I'm having my period, that means not pregnant. That's good.
Right.
And that is such a woman thing to do, though. It's like, well, I'm glad I have it, because the other thing means something else. Yeah. I love how it also mentions that Reese hasn't pushed about children either, which, first of all, why would he? They literally don't have time for it. Plus,
he's enjoying his time with Feyre.
Or the lack of. And
yeah, true.
I hate it in a book sometimes where there's like this level of, okay, we're in peace now, immediate baby. I feel like that's a little bit overdone sometimes. I mean, I don't mind it because I like it when it's like, when that's the book's end. The book is going to end. Okay, sure. And you're not going to write anymore. There's a level of like, immediately, that's kind of unrealistic.
So or like when they time skip a couple months like they've done here and it's just like, oh, all of a sudden one of them's pregnant or one of them already has a 2-year-old.
Yeah, I don't like that. So I really appreciate that.
They're taking time for each other. Well, trying to.
Doing it, albeit unsuccessful. So I will say how she, apparently in our time frame, Elaine and Nesta have been Fae for 6 months. So there's cycles coming up. And so I appreciate how she's like, I don't want Nesta to be by herself because I don't think she'll be able to handle that pain by herself.
She's going to throw a hissy fit.
She'll be she'll need to go somewhere else outside the city, not around others.
I would say go put her in the cabin, but we don't want her to destroy it.
Yeah, that's already got destroyed once. And she'd have to paint everything again.
That's true.
And I love how she talks about Elaine, but I also hate how she brings it up because like she doesn't see anything wrong with it. She's like, well, Elaine's just too polite to tell Lucian to go away. So Lucian's gonna come with like chocolates and all the things like tampon, or again, they don't have tampons, but
new flower seeds rather than just flowers seeds.
He's gonna come with all this shit and she's just gonna be like, yeah. What?
Also, how when Feyre told them, like Elaine's reaction was, oh, that's so improper.
Oh my god, eye roll major.
Like, what? It's improper to have periods or like to discuss them like this?
I legit just think it's to discuss them.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you guys are sisters. You lived in the same house forever, especially in very close quarters for those years. So I'm sure that there have been times when one of them woke up and they've stained the bed or something.
Yeah, it had to happen.
But oh no, that's too improper to even talk about.
It's like, I feel like because she got rich again, there's this level of where she's like, that's so improper unless she's bringing it up at the fucking dinner table. Like, I don't think there's a level of impropriety that's about.
Right. It was the 3 sisters talking.
That's like, I'm just telling you how it is, bitch. Like, why are you? And I love how she's just like, yeah, Elaine just kind of sitting there mourning her human life and Grayson, and I'm, why?
Still?
It's been 6 months. Dude, you haven't seen that motherfucker. Again, again, like I said last book, I get it. A first love's kind of hard to get over, but you have this hot other guy that's coming to winter solstice, probably with a gift for you.
And Grayson's already rejected you harshly.
And so it's like, come on, bitch.
You can do better.
Lucian is coming to solstice for you. He's not coming for anyone else.
Mm-mm.
So whatever. So okay. You know how much I'm a Reese fan. This
annoyed me a little
where
bit.
I start to get annoyed by him. And I appreciate how it's happening though. Because I don't like it when sometimes a guy is too perfect, because then that means something's wrong. Reese starts talking about Lucian and he's like, I guess I can tolerate his presence at solstice. And I'm like, what? Reese talks about how he cannot forgive Lucian for how he treated Feyre after Under the Mountain.
Right.
Which is funny because when she brings it up, she's like, oh, I've forgiven him. Like, again, she doesn't forgive Tamlin, but Lucian, to a certain extent, first of all, even if he did say something, which he proved to do in Akawar, it wouldn't have done anything.
Which was also proven.
So, and when he did speak up for her, it didn't do anything. So I think Lucian needs to be a little let more off the hook than what I understand. Overprotective Reese is overprotective, but him kind of bashing Lucian for that and like saying he tolerates his presence was kind of bullshit.
Right. It's like also, Reese, are you kind of forgetting how Lucian like volunteered to go to a continent to find Vasa and stuff? Like, he didn't have to do that, but he did it.
Helped them bring a whole army to them. So I have a little hard time. I'm like, dude, it's not really his fault though. Like, for all that.
Like, yes, I get Reese is a detective, but also there is a level where it's like anyone who hurts you will suffer. That sometimes can get a little extreme for me, even when a character I like says it.
Though I will say, I'm gonna say probably in this moment, it's also because he's so overly aggressive, sexual tension.
And extremely tired.
I'm not going to give him too much of a benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm not giving it a pass for this one, but I will say that that's probably a part of it. But the other thing that made me pissy was that he says, I call polo bullshit on blaming Nesta more than Elaine. That is something that pissed me off about these books so much. Yes, Nesta is the more aggressive one, but Elaine is just as much to blame.
And even Feyre says that.
She does.
Elaine is still to blame for it. It's not just Nesta. And then Reese, not once but twice, says Elaine is Elaine, as if that's a reason to not blame.
Because yeah, you're right. He legit says, no, I can, because Elaine's Elaine and Nesta's Nesta. And it's like, what the fuck does that mean?
Right.
It's like, Nesta is more aggressive, yes, but
it's like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to forgive Nesta for letting her 14-year-old sister. It's like, Elaine let her too.
Yeah. Elaine let her do the same thing. I just think, which is partly to why this is foreshadowing, is because I think everybody blames Nesta for a lot of things, but not Elaine. And so Nesta kind of gets the brunt of it. I think she should get half the blame.
Yeah, she's getting twice as much blame as she should.
So I don't think that that's right. But I love how he does say that she's Illyrian at heart. And I'm like, oh, I wonder why. I wonder why that makes sense.
Yeah. And why we ship her with an Illyrian.
Well, she's loyal. She's stubborn.
She's strong.
Strong as fuck.
She'll pick a fight.
Of course she's an Illyrian at heart. But she never tell that to her. Never say that
She'll
to her.
hit you.
She will hit you. But, okay, I will say in this whole book, I'd probably say those are the two things of Reese that I'm like, babe, I know you're like horny right now, but like, also like...
But don't attack the person who you want to fuck. Don't attack their sister.
That's also ignorant. Because then she says, you have to forgive Nesta at some point.
And God, okay, I did get slightly annoyed when he's like, okay, is that your solstice gift for me to forgive Nesta? It's like, no, you should forgive her just to forgive her, not a transactional thing.
No, that's, you do have to do that shit for free. That isn't a gift.
It's like, you're going to do that regardless of it being a gift.
No, I want a gift and that.
It's like, or you're not getting a gift.
I think he hates on Nesta so much because he sees so much of himself in her. And so that's why he rags on her so much. Because he does see the parts of himself that he doesn't like.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's my thought.
I could see that.
Is why I think that is it. But I do agree that, like, anyone who makes somebody suffer, especially if you care about them, there's a level of, like, I'm not going to forgive them. Right. But if they're actively trying and well, again, to a certain point, Nesta isn't trying, but Lucian is. Especially trying to forge with Feyre again.
And he's been trying.
I don't think he should be giving Nesta because she's not really trying. I can more see of why he's still annoyed by her.
Forgive Lucian.
Oh yeah, forgive him. There should be no reason. And I love the thought for a thought coming back.
It even made like Feyre smile again before it dropped again.
It was like, so Feyre went into the rainbow and she talks about how she feels too selfish to go paint because the people don't have homes, people are still rebuilding, like why can I do these things? And it's like, to a certain extent I understand because, you know, there's people in war right now and like in worse situations than us, but to say that I'm not going to be happy because others are not happy is so toxic to yourself.
And that also kind of calls back to the first book when she wouldn't paint with Tamlin, of like, how can I be selfish and paint when my family is then suffering in the human realm?
It's true.
Which, in this sense, now, Velaris and the citizens of Velaris are her family, indirectly.
So I get it, but also I'm gonna quote Tamlin here, like, you should never feel sorry and guilty about what you find joy in.
Yeah. Never apologize for doing things that you love.
Yeah, so one of the good Tamlin quotes that we have. And she also doesn't want to paint because there's too much on her brain to paint anything, which...
She doesn't know what thing to pick.
That's totally you.
Yeah, true.
And she doesn't want to paint in the townhouse because there's not enough space and there's not good lighting, which I could totally understand.
And the only place with good lighting is a public space that she doesn't want to be watched in.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want Amryn at my back. And it's like, when is Amryn ever at the town?
I mean, like, just a small digression, because you said that's similar to me, which is true. I like to do creative writing for our audience to hear this. I like to do creative writing, but sometimes that creative writing then turns into, like, journaling. But then I get all in my head where I'm like, okay, I gotta write this perfectly in case someone ever did find this journal. And so then I end up focusing on how to phrase the thoughts rather than just writing, like, stream of consciousness. And so then it's like, okay, well, now I'm just not gonna write. So that actually is more accurate to me than you probably even thought.
Yeah, for sure. And so I love how, you know, he brings up, it's like, well, you're getting 2 presents, babe, because it's your birthday and solstice. And she's like, you were born on the longest night of the year. You were meant to be by my side, which I do think is fate. And I do think that's cute. Because what are the fucking odds?
Yeah.
And then I love how Rhesa's thought is about their first time when she winnowed on top of him in the woods in Akamath. And there is a cute meaning besides the horniness to it.
But of course it's the horniness, because after being in his point of view, we know what he's thinking.
So she tackled him and he's like, at first it's very cute. He's like, you did it like a Lyrian, a direct hit, perfect form. And then you were panting and then I wanted us to get both naked. And I was like, that is a perfect summation of Rhys. It's just like having such a really cute, practical way of being like, yeah, you were so like passionate and
also he was like proud of her, of like, you were such an Illyrian, perfect in every way, and then let's get naked.
It's so true. It is so true. I love how when he describes her that, like, you drove me out of my mind, quote, all those months. I still don't quite believe I get to have this. Have you? He still thinks this, and that's what he said to Cassian. And that was the thought that she wanted to give.
He just had to get through the horniness first.
Yeah.
The horniness clouding his thoughts.
And if we think about it, Feyre did want him under the mountain. It doesn't look like that in the first read, and it shouldn't. But I think that there was a level of he was the one person that she always felt comfortable talking to. So she always wanted him. And it's so sweet to think of it like that. And it's like, oh.
One thing I just want to say as a person who likes this kind of domestic touch that isn't necessarily sexual, of just like him like sitting on the edge of the bed and holding her waist.
Yes.
This is very sweet. Of course, you know, they occasionally putting his face in her breasts, but
it's like
it's like for comfort rather than pleasure.
Because then she's also like running her hands through his hair and like, you know, he kisses her navel a couple times. And I also love how there's like these very like, because what does he say? He says, I love you more than my life, more than my territory, more than my crown. It's like, I love you too, babe. And then it's just like, he pulls her by the thighs, whips her around, and he's just like, the twistedness of Reese, right? To be like having this very, I love you. And then
now it's time to fuck.
I want a week's worth of sex with you. And then I love Feyre's practicality where she's like, well, I don't know if a week's worth of sex would work because I don't know if I'd be able to walk.
He'd totally, if he got the chance, be like, well, I'll just carry you everywhere then.
I know, he didn't even get to say it. Because, like...
Interruption.
He, like, starts dry humping her, basically. Like, because they have to, again, they're waiting to go to the Hewn City. So they can't do anything.
They're leaving in less than an hour.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I love how in my notes I was like, oh, and then she good old grabs his favorite part. And then...
Through the boxers at first.
And then vanishes. And then it's like, I'll still touch. Just womp.
The womp has made a reappearance.
That's the only sound effect that I can give for, like, touching it. You know what I mean?
Womp.
It's like, yeah, she womped him. Okay, anyway.
He's ready to womp her.
So, don't we love disappearing clothes? But then immediately, more knocks. Cock blocking the whole thing and just being like, you guys are gonna take forever to dress, and I don't mean Feyre.
I do appreciate that despite his horniness and everything, like, Reese still laughs to himself.
He's like, oh, we have 30 minutes, and she's like, no, and he's like, okay, this isn't finished.
We'll be back.
It's like, I need to prim.
He's like, go bother someone else, I need to prim. Hair over the shoulder.
Oh, and then immediately goes into the bathroom and takes an ice cold bath because he needed to cool himself.
Honestly, I kind of like the addition of just the word of like, oh yep, and then there was like a muffled yelp as he's like, oh, I guess that's cold.
You could hear it in the graphic too.
Feyre just waltzes in and puts her hand in the tub of like, okay, that is very cold.
I guess you needed to cool off too, babe, huh? Oh my god. So then, yes, of course, after that sweet moment, now we get the disaster that is another Hewn City.
Chapter 6, and we get it from Moore's point of
first
view.
POV.
And of course, her first point of view is in the Hewn City.
Of course.
Her territory.
I love how we're getting how she views the Hewn City at first, because when she walks in, she's like, there's no light.
Mm-hmm.
Which, versus Feyre's idea of the Hewn City is more like, I mean, yeah, it's very terrorizing, but it's also like, there's a bunch of nice architecture. I like the differences in characters of what they actually look at.
Right.
So Feyre sees it from a painter's view of look at all these amazing sculptures and whatever and paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, there's no light here.
Right.
She said the smothering darkness withered all life. And I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah. Also, can I just say, let me preface this for you guys for any Sarah book. So Kier's blonde. Any blonde dude, automatically bad. I'm not gonna lie. Every blonde dude that's been in like a Sarah book. So of course, when, Moore talks about, how her father thinks of Reese, like, of course Kier is afraid of Reese's power, but there's a level of like, he still thinks he's just a half-breed monstrosity. And wow. Which is so funny because it's like, dude, he literally is way more powerful than you.
Yeah, monstrosity and power.
Yeah, of course. So, and then Kier just ignores Moore, which fucking irks me. But also, fine. I would rather him ignore me than like him make comments.
Right.
I feel like I like passive aggressiveness more than aggressive.
Depends on the passive aggressive.
Depends. Yeah, if it's like that, if ignoring,
versus like passive aggressive comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely ignoring more than comments, and also the fact that he's been doing that for the whole time, 500 plus years. I agree with Moore in that aspect of come up with a different way.
Right. And of course, Eris is there, and as soon as Moore looks into his amber eyes, she gets triggered, and we finally get a flashback of her in that moment when she got nailed. So, I mean, we didn't get the whole thing, but basically, like, she's on the autumn court border. Mm-hmm. And so we get more details. So apparently she got caught by a patrol. Like, again, she's nailed 3 times in the abdomen. Mm-hmm. So she ain't moving. She's just bleeding out, dying. And so a patrol guy, apparently Eris came right away, which I'm thinking, is it either has time passed or did he come immediately?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make good about what he says, but he's like,
unless he was on the patrol with them.
Maybe he was. Because that's off the record. He cares about his sentries in the next book.
Yeah.
I love how I love the nuance of Eris, because I think he's an asshole, but I also don't think he's terrible. But this chapter makes him seem very terrible.
Right. I agree. I think I've said it before. I don't think Eris is necessarily a bad male. I think he's just in the wrong wrong circumstances.
And
he was raised up by Baron, so what can you expect?
He's going to be a prick. That's just, it has to happen. He says, no one touches her or she's our responsibility, which to a certain extent, like, that doesn't sound good off the bat. 3 iron nails in her abdomen. So he asks her, though, this is what I, like, picked up on a reread. But I love that the poor patrol guy, he's like, but they nailed her. He's like, no one touches her. I take it you do not wish to live here, Morgan. I thought so. Because he sees the look on her face that she would rather die than live with him in the Autumn Court. I don't think he's right here for not helping her, but I think that there's more nuance to that question than what people think. It's like, if she did want to stay, would there be a level of where he would help her? Or...
But if you think about it, I mean, of course, she was basically sold to Autumn Court for breeding purposes. So it's like, especially with Baron there, it definitely would have been like, oh yeah, she would have just been treated as a breeding mare, a prisoner.
Wouldn't it be funny if Eris was some Demodian secret? Wouldn't it be?
That would be strange.
It would be, but like, what if he just was a Demodian? Nobody knew it.
What made you think that?
I don't know, because he read her so easily. I think he's a good reader, but I don't know if he's that good.
Yeah, he can see, maybe because he's been with Baron, he can see hatred on people's faces.
Especially on hatred on a woman's face.
Oh, yeah.
It's so true.
I wonder if he's seen it on his mother's face.
Probably. That's probably why he knows that she would rather die than be there.
Which is sad.
Oh, God. She needs to get out of there for sure.
Yeah.
So... I love how even the patrol guys are like, what the fuck? We're just going to leave her here? And then, of course, comes the whole terrible where he says, we can and we will. She chose to sully herself. Her family chose to deal with her like garbage. I have already told them my decision in this matter. A long pause, crueler than the rest. Almost seemingly like supposed to be cruel, more than actually meaning it. And I'm not in the habit of fucking Illyrian leftovers.
That's harsh, but I think to me, it's still... I think that because Eris was raised by his mother, forgetting Baron for a moment, he is a good male in the sense of, I think he does respect women and their choices. He just doesn't show it because Baron. But I feel like that's like when he could tell, I think that, sorry, this is my theory.
Yeah.
I think, when he heard that Moore fucked Cassian, he was just like, okay, so that's her saying that she doesn't want to be with me. I understand that. How do I reject her in a way that will keep my father off my ass?
Or keep her safe from him.
Right, rather than like something that Baron would do. So, he thought of, okay, well, I don't want her because she is sullied, in the moment. And then, of course, maybe it wasn't quite predicting Kier to dump her there.
Random afterthought of your afterthought. I think he almost gives like one of those things where he says extreme things but doesn't actually mean them in moments when the people that he wants to make think that he's bad, like Baron or the Autumn Court Patrol, people who are going to directly talk to Baron about this moment.
He's wearing a mask, I think. I think he does not want to reveal to Baron his mask.
Because he brings up so many fucking weird-ass comments throughout the time, but he's never insulted her when in the Hewn City.
That's true.
Like, when he insulted her at the High Lords meeting, he called her a slut because the dad was there. And then here, he's saying this because... the Autumn Court Patrol soldiers are there who could say it back to Baron. And then I feel like the only other time he said something was like in public.
Well, that's true.
Was there a moment where he said something?
I'm trying to think. I thought the meeting that they had with Kier, I thought he did say something to Moore, but it was more offhanded.
Maybe it was because Kier's there. And then he didn't want Kier to think that he was good. But then when Kier left, he said something else.
That's true. So I think it's a mask that like the people that supposedly see him one way, he's going to keep it that way.
Yeah. Because why would he want Kier to think that he's being nice to Moore? Because like Kier and Eris are in the same boat about Moore being a quote unquote slut or whatever they want to call her.
And so along with that mask thing, not bringing her back into the Autumn Court keeps her safe from his father.
Oh yeah, dude. He was totally saving her there in a really fucked up way.
And in the way he could without getting caught himself.
Again, he should have helped her regardless of the consequences. I think that was still wrong of him.
Maybe contact some of the Night Court.
Maybe he did contact Azrael. We don't know what happened.
That's true.
Maybe he did contact him or contact somebody. Because how the hell did Azrael know she was there?
That's true.
I mean, besides his network of spies.
Which is why Az is even more upset, other than his crush and the fact that Eris left. Just the fact that it's like, oh, hey, Az, by the way, Moore is here. And Az gets there, and it's like, like, what the fuck, you didn't help her?
Yeah, so I think there's so much more to Eris than meets the
Yeah.
eye, because he definitely makes it, like, he respects her in some moments and then is very just all of a sudden rude in one moment, and it's like,
I definitely
wait.
have a lot of Eris theories.
It's like, wait, what do you mean? But we will go into those further
Yeah.
sometime else. But I love how Feyre kind of gets more out of, she kind of touches her and is like, hey, like, you come back?
Mm-hmm.
You went somewhere else. Are
Yeah.
you back now? And I like how when Moore describes Feyre in the Night Court, she's like, wow, she fell in well being the mistress of this place. Like, really easily. Almost like what my father would have wanted for me, but I didn't want that. Because probably Eris wanted her to be the mistress of the, like, he wanted her to be the stewardess of, well, probably not, because he would have just wanted her to breed and whatever. But she could have potentially been the powerful ruler if she did what he wanted.
Right.
But
also, Feyre and Rhys just always play well together.
That's true. But I love how, like, the reason Moore wears those bright colors is because she wants to shine in a place that doesn't have light. And I really like that. It's like too much for care. He likes, in a weird way, he respects Feyre for dressing up dark. Because he's like, yeah, too much.
Too much, keep her away.
I like how they handled this a little bit better, because it made me think Aquawar a little bit differently when I read this. The reason Moore is so, like, she handled Kier for years. One of them is fine. And she even probably handled Eris before by himself. But the fact that two males that did her the most harm are in the same place, same time,
allies,
continued. It just brings her back to that place of, like, her in the woods barely surviving. And I can understand that. I can understand how that could be traumatizing. But I do also agree with her inner self that's like, girl, you're 500 years old. Like, snap out of it. Like, but also when you go who the hell knows? When you go through a trauma like that, I mean, come on.
Yeah, true.
So, also, she's kind of going in and out of this conversation, so we're not really getting the full download on this.
Yeah.
But randomly, apparently, Baron is apparently vying for the human lands, which is not surprising to anyone.
Someone was bound to go after them eventually.
And of course it'll be Autumn, because they're right there. But I love how Eris is such an asshole. Like, but he's also, like, so manipulative in a neat way, where he's like, okay, so we told you this bit of information about Baron, but you should really look at Tamlin. And then they're like, why? What's he doing? Because we haven't really looked at him. He's like, well, think about it. In a practical way, he is right. Anybody who wants human lands have to go through him and ask for permission to even go down through there.
Right, because his land spans the entire border there.
So in a way, Eris is trying to, get them off the scent. Well, I really don't think he wants the human lands. I think that's just, but he's also trying to say.
At the same time, like, it seems like, I mean, we haven't heard much from Tamlin in these 6 chapters, but it's like, okay, Tamlin's kind of off the record. He's kind of a mysterious figure right now.
And so Eris is also kind of subtly trying to say, if Tamlin isn't up to code, that anybody can just walk into his territory, go down there, and get whatever they want.
Or if you're not careful and piss him off, he may let Autumn go through his land.
For some fucking stuff.
To spite Rhys.
And I'm just like, dude, we literally just had a temporary peace.
Yeah.
Oh my god, already?
Right.
So apparently Tamlin is also not forgiven to Moore and Rhys, which is like, I get Moore's perspective on it. Because especially with the priestesses, where it's a level of like, another female, I have to say what she actually said, because it was a really good quote. It was another day, another female lying on the ground that Moore would not forget and could not forgive. I get that.
Right. Because she came for Feyre.
So I can understand Moore's perspective of not wanting to forgive Tamlin. I think Tamlin is far harder to forgive than Lucien, for sure. I don't think they should ever really forgive him, but I think also that, like, they kind of have to make a little peace with him because...
For the sake of their own peace.
Because of where his land is.
Yeah.
If they didn't, then they probably wouldn't have anything to do with him.
I mean, it's like the saying of, like, forgive, but don't forget.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, you only have to slightly forgive him. You definitely don't have to forget, just make sure that he is behaving.
Right. So it's end of the first 6 chapters. Basically, that's what we find out, is that we have to go talk to Tamlin about something. Apparently Autumn's vying for land and other potential because if they are, people definitely are.
Right.
And of course, the Illyrian problem. So it's like, technically we're in a winter solstice holiday, but we're also setting up the next 3 books of setup.
Right.
So it's a level of, God damn it. And so as Rhys leads them out, like Moore didn't hear anything. Like the only thing that we heard that was important was that.
Mhm.
And I hate, but I also understand and I wouldn't necessarily call her a coward, but I will say there are times where it's like truth is her gift, but she's saying she's too much of a coward to say anything to him. Coward is such a hard word. I don't think I'd call her a coward.
No, but she's not really using her gift properly.
I think she'd cowardly when it comes to Azrael, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But Kier...
Kier, that makes a little bit more sense, considering how much Kier hurt her.
And still continues to do so.
Yeah.
Because imagine your dad doing that to you. Like, there's a level of, yeah, of course, continuously. Right. So, again, anyway. So that's the end of the first 6 chapters. So, whoopee. I love how even that was like 6 chapters worth of stuff, but like I still wrote 10 pages.
Now we will be moving on to our second section where we talk about the wonderful graphic audio. You know, starting a new season, I have not gotten the opportunity to listen to this graphic audio yet, but I will by the next episode. So for now, I'll let Tabby take it away and give me a little foreshadowing on how it goes.
So, okay, it has been such... Okay, since we've been on our road trip and getting to LA, like, and especially with the last week, I listened to it on our road trip 2 weeks ago. Not this one. I haven't listened to a graphic audio in 2 weeks, so I have been fucking viscerally waiting to do this. So I'm so hyped to talk about it. Because hearing everybody again, I was like, oh my god, yay! So, of course, going back like we normally do, back to chapter 1, I do want to say that in these opening credits, Colleen Delaney, an amazing voice actor, audiobook reader, amazing. She's from Skyrim. What was that one? Oh my god. She's a Skyrim character. Melody said it in her episode, and I'm totally forgetting what her name is.
Isn't she like the main director?
Yes, she also is the director of these books. So it's like, she has a great voice. So this is the graphic audio where it starts to get into the third POV with everyone. So she is the actor. So during the Cassian and Moore chapters, she's the voice, third POV person. I mean, you know, Amanda and John both do the like audio stuff still, but they're not the ones doing the narration. It's just her doing the narration of that. For everything except the things in quotes and italics. Right. So get off the bat. I so happy to hear Melody's voice again. It felt like coming home. I was so happy to hear it, especially at the beginning. Again, because this is such a shorter book, the music hits so much in every reflection period. Like, especially at the beginning when we're thinking about all the moments and roller coaster of Akatar, is like, it's very peaceful music, even when we're talking about like scary things. And then I liked, maybe I didn't notice this maybe before, but I think I've noticed it a couple times where Rhys is too far away to hear. I loved the silence of the void that she was talking into, because normally there's a sense of echo, but this time it was like she was legit just talking to nothing. And so it's like, it felt emptier. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. But at the same time, I was like, oh, where is he? Where's Rhys-Sand? Where is he? I was like, baby. And then, of course, I love the music when she talks about Rhys saving her. It's very epic love, sort of like, or it's like whenever you see like those like dream bubbles pop, like that's what it means. It's like, oh, I'm gonna sing about true love and when he saved me and whatever. And it's just, it was very sweet. And then especially during these chapters, I love the quick trigger moments. Like, it's not too jarring for somebody, but it's definitely like this transition of like, nope, I need to get that out of my brain. Like, it's like there's this trembling music, but it's like, okay, got it, gone. And Melody always does like a big breath sort of thing to get rid of her, because through her past experience, she learned how to kind of breathe and get through those moments. So it was nice. I loved the music also behind her helping people. It was very much Beauty and the Beast. There's something there, or something there. Like, there's something sweet and almost kind. Like that background music. I don't know why that was like, it totally made me think of that. And I was like, okay, going with the Beauty and the Beast theme even after all 4 books.
Right.
And then, of course, because Feyre talks to Rhys by the end of this book at the end of this chapter in her mind, hearing Anthony's voice again was like music to my ears. I was sitting here I was like, he's back. I was like, and he was so deep this time. I feel like during Akabor, there were so many times where like, when you record something for so long, I feel like there's a level of, you're not going as deep and guttural as you have been maybe for the character, but he went back to that like deep root of like,
he was also very corny.
Yes, I'll get to that. And it was just like Feyre darling, and I was like, It's like, it made me feel so much like what this book is for. Of like, welcome back, here's the characters,
Resetting.
here's more of this. Yeah, no, I loved it. So then, of course, during Reese's chapter in chapter 2, I was so hyped for Anthony's POV. Again, I love Melody's acting and her narrating. Sometimes I can't think of her as anybody else, especially when I hear her in another graphic audio. Like, she does a good job of doing the difference, but she is such a calm narrator to me that like I can listen to her stuff all day. And then Anthony, I feel like I need to take breaks because there's a level of goddamn.
That makes sense.
And then I full on belly laughed. She didn't hear me. She was in the other room, but like I full on belly laughed at the beginning of this because when he starts talking about like, you know, like I don't know why at the beginning of this there was this very like sexy suave music underneath it when he was talking, and it hadn't even gotten to like the part about the kitchen table yet.
It was foreshadowing.
It was very much like and I was like, what the fuck is happening? I'm like, please continue, but also like, why am I dying at this? And then hearing John Cassian's voice all over again, you know, immediately trying to like knock Devlin down. I'm just like, you go, babe. I'm just like, you are amazing. Males are so aggressive and we love it.
That hair flip. Males are so aggressive.
And I love it.
You love it. You especially love this aggressive male.
Oh my God, because he's just like, they train for 2 hours. And I was like,
it's like, I'll train for 2 hours if you're my teacher.
It's so true. It's so true. And then I don't know what it is, but Dark Sultry Reese is like my favorite. Like hearing him talk, just first of all, the kitchen table thing, just hearing him do that whole thing of just like, there isn't a place in here where I haven't taken favor.
Everything but the kitchen sink.
Yeah, and I was like, and then especially when he talks about taking her up in the air, the desperation with which that narration did, like my eyeballs were bulging because I was like, dude, I felt this. I was like hearing that. I'm just like, damn, I need to get laid.
In the air.
Laid in the air. Don't make me spit, dude.
No, I'm not joking.
You don't spit it. Okay, if you do that to me, I'm gonna get back at you. So I also loved hearing the very uneasy music around the dissension. Like, you're having this very sexy suave moment and all of a sudden, like she said, there's kind of a record scratch level. Yeah, so there's dissension brewing and I don't know how we're gonna fix it. And he's like, wait, what? Like, wait.
Could you say that again?
And it's like, And then I love especially the uneasy music around Cassian and Ness specifically, because there's a level of like, yeah, my brother hasn't talked about it's so sad. It brings it up as such sad music.
It is sad.
Yeah, because then it's like that's who he wanted to be with. That was his happy ending. At least he thought.
I know he would have died with honor with the woman he cares about.
That he loves enough that I wouldn't say I think he thinks it's love, but I don't think he would say it's love yet. But it is, because who would not love somebody that they said they'd wait in the next lifetime for? So
that seems like a confession to me.
Yeah, no, it is without saying it. But sometimes with Nesta, you might need to be a little bit more forward. You might need to say it.
Right. That's similar to you in that sense.
Yeah, because I might not get it.
Although you're getting better about it.
Also, hearing John stutter over the Nesta thing was so cute. Because it totally made me, he's like, Rena was like, babe, she is coming, I think, but like, I don't think it's going to be good.
It probably won't. You'll probably wish she hadn't come.
Because then he immediately switches and he's just like, yeah, you know, it'd be a disaster anyway.
It ended in violence.
He immediately like had an intimate moment. Like, what's so interesting about Cassian's character is that like it switches so quickly from trying to be intimate to like laughing it off. And I'm like, oh my God, I love that shift because I want to see more of these intimate moments with him. And then Cassian's mini monologue about Reese and Peace, about him saying, she loves you, dude, like more than anyone. It's like about the mating bond. It's like, I get jealous sometimes.
It's like a pep talk.
It was such a good mini monologue. I really loved. He's like, we have peace, Reese. He was such a broski in this moment for sure.
I did want to mention in the first section of how the embrace of like they hardly ever embrace like that as brothers. But like the fact of Cassian just, you know, standing and staring for a moment and then being like, you know what, fuck it. And then pulls him into a hug and Reese is just like
we love guys that hug that like don't try to make it into a thing.
Right.
Of course then we get into chapter 3, which is Cassian's perspective, which is the first time we hear Colleen Delaney. She does a lot of other graphic audiobooks. She did all of Crescent City. She also, because Crescent City is all in third POV. I've heard her before more than just Crescent City. I mean, she does Silver Flame. But I've heard her as well in a couple other ones. They're just not not coming to my mind at the moment. It was just hard not adjusting, if I'm being honest. It was hard to adjusting to not Anthony or Melody. Because for the last 3 books, we've only heard him or her. So it was a little interesting not to. It didn't like throw me off. I will say there was a level of like, oh, this is someone else. But she's good. She's good. I like this. And something good that Colleen does is when she's narrating, she does act it. Like, it's not just a flat narration. She's
That's
like,
good.
it's almost like you can kind of feel Cassian's presence, but again, it is a third POV. I love her Cassian flying. Also, I love the adjusting of the leathery wings and him like expanding them.
That's legit. Now I'm remembering. It's legit like the moment when he went outside and the kids were cooing at him. I'm just like, whoa, so cool.
Yeah, and I love the expand of the leather because it's just like a leather noise. It's like, okay. And then of course, when it got to the whole Romuel section, I liked how it got really broody. It's like, because again, he talks about Romuel being like watchful and awake. So it's like, he's kind of peacefully flying. And then like, as he gets closer to us, there's like this boom, boom, boom echo. And so it's really cool to hear. And then especially Colleen, like again, because this section doesn't have Cassian talk. It's legit just all her. And I think he does some grunts every now and then, but like, it's not, he doesn't talk. So I love how when she's talking, she's breaking at talking about his mother. Because she's just, because he's probably breaking on the inside, like hearing that. And because I think there was like one specific thing where it's just like, this is for all the women that he can save because he couldn't save. And like, she just broke at it. I was like,
oh, that's sweet.
I was like, that's so good. I love a good narration that doesn't just flat read it.
Right.
Again, people like that, but I like this better.
It's called voice acting for a reason.
This is a graphic, man. And then, of course, the epic swell of music when talking about his honorable intentions. He's like, if I can give women resources to do this and that, then like I'm, making my mother proud or something. And it's like, yay. And then like looking off in the distance at Nesta, no, I can't think about her here. No. God damn it, they are going to see each other. I could just tell. And then, of course, chapter 4 with Feyre in the rainbow talking to Ricinia, and then the more thing. I loved hearing the sounds of Valaris. I love the normal sounds of like people walking and talking.
Hear Valaris again.
Yeah, the milling about and the random music spikes. I think those are cool. And again, she's walking, and then when she comes across the change in music when looking at the damaged building. I love how it's very solemn again. Like you have this uplifting music in Valaris. You have this very uplifting music in Valaris, and then all of a sudden just damage. And it's like, but it kind of sums up Feyre what she talks about to Rhys in the next chapter.
Right.
Like, how can I feel happy walking around when there are things like this? Again, I didn't bring this up in the main because like it wasn't necessarily really like an important plot point, but like there are Christmas carolers and they're like going around and you can hear them, and it's just like oh, like I don't know if it's Deck the Halls, it's something, but it's definitely a Christmas tune.
Funny.
And it's like, oh, that's kind of cute. They threw that in there.
Yeah. Adds to the background
too. I also I didn't write it in my notes, but also Ricinia's voice, like I thought it was good. It's weird on those side characters things where it's like I feel like this is a weird compliment, but I think it's a compliment. If I'm not jarred by it, I like it. Especially if it's very much a side character where like we don't get to see too much of them, but there's a level of importance they have. As long as it doesn't jar me, I'm not, weirded out by it. So I think it's a compliment when it's subtle enough that it makes sense.
That makes sense.
And then of course when she talks to Moore at the end, like there wasn't really necessarily any like main points to me that stuck out to me as a graphic, like it just the normal stuff. But I just want to say Amanda's voice is Moore. All I can say is just it's pure sunshine. Like I feel Moore's sunshine through her narration, and I love it to death. And I couldn't say that about any of the other actors. I think she's so perfect as Moore. I think everybody's perfect in this ACOTAR rendition that there's nobody that I would change. And that's saying something because
that's good casting.
A lot of the other graphic audios, there's like people that I'd be like, should I have done a choice? Like, not in a bad way, but more like, that wasn't what I was expecting. So this is a good graphic audio. I will have more critiques for further graphic audios in the future, but this one I have little critiques on. Also, going off of then chapter 5 when Feyre is back in the bedroom, I don't know what it is about Anthony and Melody specifically as Rhys and Feyre, but they are perfect for their characters. Anthony is such a perfect actor for Rhys because he has the the ability to have a sexy suave, but then very moments of comic. Because it's funny when we talk to Anthony, he's like, yeah, I've only ever been cast like comic relief. So, which is really crazy to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine him not doing something like super sexy suave.
Yeah.
Like, that's just him to me. And so the fact that like he has very comic, like there's a lot of sexy suave voices, but they can't do comedy very easily, which is so Reese.
Right.
Melody as Feyre. Switch that one up. It's so good. She just fits as Feyre. There's like no way to describe it. She's like perfect as the ingenue character, but also like the subtle caregiver.
Yeah.
Like she's powerful as well.
I can see that.
But very caregivery.
Yeah.
And I really like the two dualities, which is so good in their characters. So I just wanted to say that.
I do agree. Anthony and Melody do wonderful as Reese and Feyre.
Like I can't hear them as anyone else. Well, when I do, I'm like, oh, it's Reese, but it's because
what is Reese doing in this book?
Because Grace is Melody plays Grace in Crave, and I do think Melody changed her voice enough to where I'm like, oh yep, that's Grace, not Feyre. But yeah, I will sometimes be like, oh, Feyre, such a perfect one for her. Again, I do love the wings expanding and contracting because like it does it every time, and I love that there's that added detail. I also love the music under when hearing about children. Like there's this level of, oh. I mean, it's kind of pretty, but it's also a level of like, yeah, not now. Yeah.
But maybe later, and hopefully I don't wait too long.
Well, yeah, because a lot of it I passed through, but like she's talking about the bone carver. She still remembers what he showed her. And like you said, am I waiting too long? Or do I want to deal with the 2 periods a year if I could just have a kid? Like,
right.
That's what some people think. Like, I'd rather have the baby than have periods every month.
It's like, but honestly, pregnancy is like
worse.
Those cramps anyway. I mean, not even just talking about like labor, but like all of like the kicking and and stuff like.
So it was just funny. And then of course the music under A Thought for a Thought, because as soon as I heard it, it was like this level of like, so I went into the rainbow today, music underneath, very beautiful and thought provoking. And I was like, oh, so pretty. And then of course his is very like good at the beginning, because he was like, oh, I could say so many things about that moment, but especially when he says, I was so desperate for you, I love you more than like, he had like a sigh too. He's like, I love you more than my crown, more than my territory, and I'm like, oh, if I was Feyre just sitting there with like his head between my breasts, I'd just be like, oh, babe.
Like, oh.
Unless I was in the right mood like he would, and I'd just be like press him on the bed before he could get me on the bed.
He'd still end up flipping you.
Shut up. So I love, then again, the subtle shift and not subtle shift that Anthony can do, where it's just, because you even heard the plop of the eyes. That's how much they went into it. It's like you heard, and then flip, and then she goes, oh, and then he's like, sex, a week. And then just the deep guttural again. And I'm like, God damn it. That is hard to get out of my brain, especially after listening to this today. Good God. And then, of course, when, because they have their sexy moment and he's like, moaning I think this is the most desperate I've ever heard Reese. Because again, in all the moments beforehand, they haven't really been this desperate. Like War, not so much. And then Akamath, they just got together. This was a level of desperate where it's just like, ugh, like, why can't we do this now? And it's very much sounded like that. It was very un-Reese-like, but very in character. And I was like, because then when he's screaming to Moore, he's like, later! And I was like, sounds about like a horny guy. That sounds about right. Sounds
like, leave me alone.
Yeah, totally. Like, I could totally see his head going back and like him saying that. And I was just laughing because I thought it was so funny. And of course, hearing so again, because, Anthony's like a king of comedy, you could hear the like getting into the tub of ice cold. And then she just goes over, puts her hand in, and she's like,
just laughs at it.
Again, perfect. Because then there's like this kind of sneaky as comic music under it. Yeah, I guess somebody needed a cold bath, didn't they? And I just love her playfulness there.
Yeah.
And then of course, last chapter 6. There wasn't necessarily much in terms of like, because again, it's a lot of Colleen Delaney's like monologuing. But again, I still love Eris's voice. I won't ever though, to be fair, I feel bad because every other graphic audio I've heard him in, he's like this creepy dude. And like, so in this one, I have to give him props because he's a prick. Because then it's funny because when you hear Eris in this first one, then she goes, ugh, that voice. And I'm thinking to myself, that voice.
That voice.
I'm having a way different reaction than Mora's having. She's like, sounds like such a prick. And I'm like,
he sounds like a prick.
The same thing just said differently.
Yeah.
So I don't actually mind Eris's voice. I think it's very sultry and I think it's very inviting, which I think makes him such an interesting character because it's like it draws you in, but it's like, no, you're too dangerous, but I'll play.
And he wears pewter.
Oh yeah. What's that?
Pewter is a type of metal. So it's like, he adjusted his pewter tunic.
He's one of them. Oh my god. Yeah. Any guy who's wearing metal like that's gotta be pretentious.
Although I think it was actually pewter colored, so a silvery gray.
Oh, so maybe it wasn't actually metal.
Right, but pewter is typically associated with metal.
Well, I didn't know that, so thank you.
Yeah. Fun fact.
I will say, I think the most important part of this chapter for me that I really loved was hearing Amanda's acting during the memory. Because especially when you get into it, there's this, she's about to die. So there's this level of pained breaths that she's like shallow breathing that's going on. Mm-hmm. And then that she's like trying to talk, but not able to. And so then when Eris comes up, he's just like, you don't want to be here, do you, Morgan? I suppose not. And his acting kind of subtly showed me that maybe there is more to meets the eye than with him. Just by his acting. And I was like, that's what made me question him a little bit more. Because his acting was so good that I was like, because then it like, he said it so kindly. Like, where even though he's saying weird shit, like he's still saying it kind of, he's like, he kind of leans down to her, he's like, you don't want to be here, do you, Morgan? I thought so. And then he walks away and then he's just like, very hard. And all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, he's just like, I don't want to fuck Illyrian leftovers. Totally, it's almost like written in a pre-script.
It's like, all right, pulling the mask back on.
It's like, I could totally feel that. Yeah. So I'm interested to see more. I'm also interested to hear more of his voice. Because I really want to see what his voice actor chooses for that dynamic. I really do. So that was all I had for the graphic audio. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we end and tell the people goodbye?
I don't think so. I'm just excited to start listening to it.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into this again because again, we're back. Season 4 is only going to be 9 episodes long because Frost and Starlight is not that long. So yes, I just wanted to tell the people before we go, we're going to have 4 main episodes and then we finally got 2 voice actors confirmed. So the voice who does Morgan, Amanda Forstrom, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And then I don't know how to pronounce her last name very well, but Nora Adarashi. I apologize. I will ask you how to actually pronounce her name. But
Nora A.
Yeah, the woman who does Amren's voice. So we have those both interviews for the graphic audios for this season, and then yeah, we have our dad and mom's perspectives like we do every season, and then we're on to Silver Flame, ladies and gents.
And everyone.
And everyone, yes. I don't even know why I said it like that. It was weird. But yeah, so I'm excited to interview some more people. God, it's going to be 6 interviews we've had. It's going to be amazing.
That's
so
cool.
I'm excited to talk to them and excited to see where their characters are going, especially with this book. So again, yes, like please, we're going to get back into the Patreon, back into our TikToks. Again, with the move, things kind of got a little crazier. So please look for stuff on that. We're also going to be starting our live streams. We're going to be better about making an actual schedule about when those things are going to happen. So look more towards that. And then please follow the Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, follow the Patreon for free. And again, review this podcast, please. Like we have gotten so much support and even in the couple of last weeks when we haven't been posting anything. So I just want to say we got over 220 views for October, which is crazy. That's the most we've ever had in a month. So thank you so much, you guys. It was so great. We appreciate all the support and are so excited to build more of a community. So again, if you want to join our community, ask us for the Discord. I found out why the link doesn't work. It works. You have to keep sending it. It's one of those time-based things. So if you sign up for the, and we'll do it more when we do our live streams, we'll put the Discord link up for everybody because I've seen a lot of streamers do that. But yeah, so we will have way more to come. So I'm really excited for this and I'm excited we get to be in person finally doing it together. So
yes,
I wish everybody to stay happy and healthy and I hope you guys have a great day, night, evening, whenever.
Life.
Yes, have a great life.
Yeah, I know Tabi also mentioned about the Discord, but I will also be making an effort to be posting something every day, whether that's memes or fan art or just something random. So hopefully to start up some more engagement with everyone.
Yeah, and actually do those things now that we're in a place together doing content. So that'll be easier. But yes, we'll see you guys all in the next episode. We hope you enjoyed. Bye.
Bye.